Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or The Last Airbender. Bodyguard of Azula. Location: Konoha. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade was looking over the latest report from the bending countries. She had just reached the point where the Earth Kingdom forces led by Colonel Ching had reached the bridge when shouts were coming from the hallway, shouts that were accompanied with the sounds of a small struggle. "Wait, you can't go in there," someone shouted before the office doors burst open. Tsunade put the report down and stared at the intruder with a calm expression. "Is there something I can help you with, Jonin Uchiha?" she asked the shinobi standing before her. Sasuke stood in the doorway with an angry look on his face. "Why didn't you tell us?" he demanded, his voice all but snarling. "What didn't I tell you?" Pulling out a kunai, he launched himself at the Hokage. He might have struck her had a pair of arms not grabbed him and pulled him back. "Sasuke, for Kami's sake, calm down," Sakura told her teammate as she held him back. "Don't try to be the calm one here, Sakura," he told her as he struggled out of her grip. "You're just as mad as I am about this." She still wouldn't let him go, her grip was like iron. "Well, it doesn't exactly help us if you try to murder the Hokage, Sasuke," a silver-haired, face-masked shinobi said as he walked into the office. "What is the meaning of this, Kakashi?" Tsunade asked. Sakura managed to calm Sasuke down as the fourth member of the team, a very pale, which is putting it lightly, black-haired and black-eyed teenager boy, came in. Kakashi cleared his throat as they stood before her. "Lady Hokage," he began. "Why were we not informed about the mission regarding Naruto?" "The mission does not have Naruto as priority 1, she answered. "It's protection detail. Anything that has to do with Naruto is a secondary objective." "That still doesn't explain why you didn't tell us about the mission, Lady Tsunade," Sakura told her master, trying to stay respectful. But she was having a bit of difficulty with it. When news of Naruto surfaced, they were usually the first to know. "I'm sure the Hokage will tell us if you let her talk, ugly," the pale member told her with a fake smile. She turned on him with a fist raised and an angry look on her face. "Don't start with me, Sai," she yelled at him. She would punch him through a wall if he kept up with that. "Sakura, stand down," Tsunade barked out. She put her fist down but still gave Sai the angry look. "As I said," the Hokage continued, "the priority is the protection detail, and given your history with Naruto, you are not suited for this mission." Sasuke slammed his fist onto the table. "Naruto is our teammate. We have the right to go after him more than any other team." She just looked at him in silence. While the rest of Konoha 11 put their efforts into looking for Naruto, it was Team 7 who put the most effort into it. When they were able, they did everything they could in looking for him. They went after the vaguest of rumors looking for their former teammate. But sometimes their drive got them into trouble. She had gotten multiple reports of them breaking into places they didn't have business in or assaulting people that spoke ill of Naruto. "It is for that reason you are not on the mission," she told him. "We both know that you would abandon the person you would protect in heartbeat if it gave you the chance to go after Naruto. Lady Hokage, with all due respect, Naruto is our teammate," Kakashi spoke. He would have continued, but she cut him off. "Don't give me that excuse, Kakashi. You don't think I haven't read the reports about your team's hunts for Naruto? About how your team has illegally broken into places just because you heard a vague rumor that he might be there? Or about how your team sent a person to a hospital's ICU because they insulted him? You have used that excuse one too many times." She gave them all a hard look. "Until I am certain that you won't go chasing after rumors, you and your team are confined to the village. Now leave." "Lady Tsunade." Sakura began to protest. Her teacher cut her off. "I said leave." The four members bowed and turned to leave before Tsunade stopped them again. "Wait," she spoke. "Who was it that told you?" "Only teams Kurenai, Guy, and Asuma knew about this mission." Quote ellipsis. "Konohamaru," Sakura finally said. They left the office after that. The sounds of their footsteps and walked past other people came in from the open door. "Shizune!" yelled out Tsunade after a few minutes of silence. Get Team Ebisu in here now. Kami, take that woman. Sasuke swore as he and the rest of his team walked down one of Konoha's streets. The other people in the street could feel the tension and anger he was giving off and gave the team a wide berth. Watch it, Sasuke, Sakura warned her teammate. That woman is my teacher, and your Hokage. While she was just as angry, she was still protective of her sensei. You know, Sakura, you're making it sound like she was your only teacher, Kakashi told her with an eye smile. I'm hurt. She knew that he was playing, but she smiled apologetically anyway. And Sasuke, as much as I dislike it myself, the Hokage confined us for good reason, he said to his other student, his tone turning serious. Sasuke stopped and tried to rein in his anger. I know, he said after a minute. I just hate the fact that we're stuck here when we know where Naruto is, but we can't go after him. Sakura put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Trust me, Sasuke. We all feel that way. Well, I for one do not, Sai spoke up. Why exactly should we care about someone who decided to up and abandon the village as well as this team? For all we know, he could have left to gain more power and turn on the village. It's incorrect for this team to worry about a traitor and possible danger. Whatever he was going to say next was interrupted when Sakura punched him hard, sending him flying down the street. As the people on the street scattered, a slightly dazed Sai was grabbed by the shirt and brought to look at Sakura's and Sasuke's angry faces. Let's get one thing straight here, Sai. You are not a part of Team Kakashi. You are here only to ensure we can operate at full capacity. The fourth member of Team Kakashi is Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura told him. The next time I hear you disrespecting Naruto like that, I'll hit you so hard your head will fly off. Not if I kill him first, Sasuke said, his hand reaching for the Chikudo at his waist. Sai gave another fake smile. I'll keep those words in mind, considering your Konoha no Sakura Ho-Oh, Konoha's cherry blossom phoenix, he told Sakura. And you're the Kurojishi no Sharingan, Black Lion of the Sharingan, he told Sasuke. That's enough. Kakashi barked out. Sasuke, Sakura, let him go. They both did as they were told, letting him fall back down to the ground with the sound of him hitting the dirt echoing through an empty street. Since we're confined to the village, I recommend we all calm down. He looked at Sai. Go report back to Danzo. I'd advise you only rejoin us once everyone has calmed down. Sai simply got up, nodded and walked away. I'm going to go train, Sasuke said. He started to walk in the direction of the training grounds. He wanted to hit something. Need a sparring partner? Sakura asked as she caught up with him. He gave a slight smile and nodded his head. They walked off together to blow off some steam. People started to fill up the street once they had realized that the danger was now over. The relief on their faces were obvious to all. Kakashi watched as his two students disappeared around a corner. They had changed from being an Avenger and a fangirl. It's still amazing to see them be like that nowadays. He thought to himself. But they aren't children anymore. He mentally sighed. I guess we can thank Naruto for that. After learning what had happened to Naruto during his life and the pain it caused him, Sasuke realized that he had lost a good friend because of what happened. The curse mark had influenced him too much. So, he went to Jiraiya and asked him to remove it. Knowing that Orochimaru's handiwork with seals was a little crude at best and sloppy at worst, he was able to remove the curse mark without any trouble. But Sasuke knew that wasn't the only problem. He had figured out that it only amplified both his superiority and his inferiority complexes. Surprising the civilian council, the shinobi council, and Tsunade, he volunteered to take a leave of absence from the shinobi ranks to take therapy sessions. After sessions with Ino's father, Inoichi, the two complexes had diminished almost to the point where they were non-existent. Once the sessions were over, Sasuke rejoined the shinobi ranks and proceeded to put his nose to the grindstone. He tried to refrain himself from using the Sharingan as he trained under Kakashi, only using it when it was called for. But even then, he was greatly improving. He learned everything Kakashi had to teach him and asked Guy if he could help him with his taijutsu, which sent Guy off into a speech of how youthful Sasuke was. He even learned Kenjutsu to diversify his skills. All of this helped him immensely in his missions. People in Konoha started to call him the second coming of Itachi. Surprisingly enough, he didn't hate the title, but neither was he proud of it. When it came time for the next Chunin exams, both he and Sakura went to Kumo to take it, with both making it to the third stage. When Kumo does the Chunin exams, by the third stage you are given a choice. A person can fight the opponent that's supposed to fight against them, or they can make a request to fight someone else. When Sasuke made it to the final round, he asked if he could fight someone else. Intrigued, the Raikage asked who it was he wanted to fight. He stunned the entire stadium by saying, "Your brother, Killer B." Before the Raikage could even say no, his brother was already in the stadium fields. Sasuke asked that it would only be a taijutsu and kenjutsu match, wanting to see where he was weak. Once the match had begun, Sasuke soon had to use his Sharingan just to keep up the B's movements and speed, but it still wasn't enough. After 10 minutes, the match ended in Killer B's favor, with the Uchiha thoroughly beat. When both the Raikage and Tsunade asked for his opinion about the fight, B simply said, "He lasted that long against the best. If it were me, I'd give him the vest." Sasuke was indeed given the rank of Chunin. His rise to Jonin rank came about a year later. Jiraiya had passed information about Orochimaru's location to the village. Tsunade created a group to take out her ex-teammate, and upon hearing about it, Sasuke volunteered for it. The plan was simple. They were to wait for night to fall, sneak into the base and kill Orochimaru while also collecting information. Sasuke and Anko Mitarashi were delegated to information hunting while the others were to kill the Snake Sage. Despite both having a bone to pick with Orochimaru, neither of them complained about what they were assigned to do, they just accepted it. They broke into the base and separated. Both teams were to stay in contact with each other via wireless radio. Both Anko and Sasuke soon discovered that the base was a gold mine of information. They had even found the snake summoning scroll as well as information on current members of the Akatsuki. While they stashed the information they found away, they heard the sound of battle coming from the wireless. They quickly made their way to the sounds of battle. They soon found where the fight was being fought and discovered that the team that were sent to kill Orochimaru were now in the process of fighting and getting killed by him. Later, they learned that one member of the group got cocky and announced their presence to the Snake Sage. Seeing the damage that was being done, Sasuke told Anko to help the others that were still alive fend off Orochimaru while he got the wounded out. Once that was accomplished, he had the others pull out as he set off the explosive notes that both he and Anko had put up both outside the base and inside as a precaution. He knew that it would take more than that to kill Orochimaru. He only used it as a distraction so that they could get away safely. Once they had arrived back at the village and reported in, the Shinobi Council decided to give Sasuke the rank of Jonin, while the new civilian council encouraged him to become the second Snake Sage. Surprised by their offers, he asked why he was given it when he had only been a Chunin for a year. "Because they said so and so do I get over it," Tsunade told him with abrupt gruffness. While he did thank her and the Shinobi Council for the promotion, he declined becoming the second Snake Sage. His reason was that he was never Orochimaru's student. Sakura had also changed over the years. After becoming Tsunade's apprentice, her nose was put to the grindstone as well, one might even say it was shoved into the grindstone. Whatever traces of being Sasuke's fangirl were left, Tsunade pretty much killed them. Sakura was put through a rigorous form of training, but in the end, it benefited her greatly. She now saw Sasuke as a friend and had even apologized for how she acted towards him when they were younger. Nowadays, she helped him run away and hide from his fangirls, except when he's in the hot springs or bathhouse, he was on his own there. She also became a Chunin at the same Chunin exams Sasuke did. Under Tsunade's tutelage, Sakura became proficient in medical ninjutsu. Some people claimed that it was like she was resurrecting patients and giving them new life. Combined with the taijutsu lessons Tsunade gave her, her fiery temper, of which many a poor fool has been on the receiving end of, and her looks, earned her the title of Konoha no Sakura Ho-O, Konoha's cherry blossom phoenix. Sasuke received his nickname from a surprising place, his brother. One of the pieces of information that Orochimaru had was a supposed location of Naruto. Team Kakashi quickly made their way to said location. They split up to cover more ground and see if they could find anything. As Sasuke made his way through a building, he discovered that they weren't the only ones looking for Naruto. "Hello Sasuke," Itachi said as the two brothers faced each other in an abandoned warehouse. "Get out of my way, Itachi," Sasuke told him. "I don't have time to deal with you." He walked past him to get to the door on the other side, surprising his brother a little. "Are you here for Naruto?" The single question Itachi asked made the younger Uchiha stop in his tracks. "So you're here for him. It seems we are looking for the same thing. Perhaps we should combine our efforts." The last question was laced with both irony and sarcasm. "You stay away from him," he roared at his brother, whipping back around to face him, Sharingan blazing. "You touch him, and I'll gut you." Itachi flinched and took a step back at the intensive glare his brother was giving him. But he recovered. "So, you would rather fight me not for what I did, but for what I might do?" he asked with quiet surprise in his voice. "Killing you won't bring back our clan. But it will definitely stop you from finding Naruto," he growled as he slowly reached for a kunai. The silence between the two brothers filled the warehouse. Had it been any other situation, anybody who was in there as well would have felt awkward. Fighting to protect your friends rather than to avenge your family. Itachi was silent for a couple of seconds and then smiled. "It seems that you have grown, Sasuke. You may still be foolish, but you are not the same foolish little brother I remember." "How am I still foolish?" he demanded. He felt like he had matured since that night and even more so since the last time he has seen his brother. But to hear him say that he was still foolish made him feel like nothing had changed at all. "Have you considered the possibility that Naruto doesn't want you to find him? He came after me, so I will do the same for him," he replied with confidence, remembering how Naruto chased after him when he had tried to leave. "I was such an idiot," he mentally berated himself. And now, he was trying to make up for his idiocy. "And what if he doesn't want to come back?" Itachi asked, curious to see how his brother would answer. This was a new and different Sasuke he saw. He was wondering how much he changed. "He'll come back," he said with determination. "I know he will." His brother scoffed. "Still foolish," he muttered. "It seems you haven't changed as much as I had though." He began to walk away before stopping again in front of the rear door. "I hear that the villagers call you my second coming. The villagers will say what they want. It does not matter to me." Shinobi who listened to how people talked about them usually got a swelled ego. He didn't want or need that. But one should always try to have a name they can call theirs. "So, I, Itachi Uchiha, hereby name you the Kurojishi no Sharingan, Black Lion of the Sharingan. Let the countries know you as such," he declared with both formality and authority before he continued walking out of the building. Sasuke just watched as his brother left. "Thank you, Aniki," he whispered before leaving through the other door. Itachi may have his enemy nowadays, but he was still his brother. And he had always wanted Itachi to praise him. Giving him his own nickname was his own way of praising him. Itachi stood outside the building, his ears having caught what Sasuke had whispered. "You're welcome, Otuto." He continued to walk away, trying to find Kisame so they could continue their own search for Naruto. End flashback. Naruto wasn't there of course, so all they could do was to go back to the village. But once what had happened between Sasuke and Itachi became public knowledge, people started to call him the Kurojishi no Sharingan. Kakashi sighed as he started to walk away. "I just hope that guy, Asuma or Kurenai can bring him back. The little Gaki is missed around here," he thought to himself as he disappeared into the crowds. Location: Earth Kingdom. "Alright, I'm off," Naruto told them as they stood outside the tank train, which it itself stood on the edges of a forest. It had been a week since the Battle of Kuzan. The last time Naruto heard from Colonel Monk, he and the Rough Rhinos were given another mission from the Fire Lord. In addition, Governor Shun wrote the details of the battle in his report, and even succeeded in convincing the errant paragon of the Fire Nation to start giving his Fire Lord and Liege some proper respect, if he was to become an officer. It was early in the morning and they started moving yet. Mostly because Naruto had to leave due to an annual ritual that he had to do. "Are you sure you can't hold this off?" Ty Lee asked. She looked at her friend with concern shining in her eyes. He gave her a look. "Ty Lee, if you ever meet this guy, you would do well to be punctual. Otherwise, you're likely to end up dead," he told her. "Besides, you three need to get back to Yudao soon. War Minister Chin's time limit on loaning the tank train is almost up." "Well, we'll see you around," Mai told him, acting like she was bored out of the world. But in her own way, she too was concerned for him. "Goodbye to you too, Mai," he replied in a deadpan voice, although he knew she was concerned for him. He turned to Azula, who looked a little sad. He never did like leaving her. She may have had her two closest, if only, friends with her, and he knew that she could hold her own in a fight, but it still made him a little worried. But he knew that if he didn't try to keep this appointment, there was a very good chance of ending up as food. "Don't worry your royal head, princess. I'll be back before you know it," he said with a cheerful voice that they both knew was a fake one. She lost the sad look, scoffing at her bodyguard. "Who said I was worried?" she asked, trying to sound like she had been offended. He grinned. "You need to stop worrying, Kit," the QB told him. "She's got Ty Lee and Mai. She'll be fine." "You're right," he silently replied. "Now don't go doing anything stupid," he told her, faint concern showing in the sentence. She heard it but fought to keep her face calm and not to show any other emotions. "Did you forget who you're talking to?" "Right, sorry." He looked at Ty Lee and Mai. "Make sure she doesn't do anything stupid, okay?" he asked, this time with obvious humor instead of concern. They both nodded, making Ty Lee giggle and Mai chuckle, making Azula lose the fight to stay calm and became angry. "Naruto, she began but he was already gone. They could hear his laughter on the wind. "I swear there are days when I hate him so much." "Of course, you do," Mai said, like she was stating the obvious. But both she and Ty Lee knew she was lying when she said things like that. Aang sat on the ground with a flute in hand. In front of him were several holes in the ground. "What's out here?" Sokka asked. He wasn't seeing much. Toph knelt down and placed her hand on the ground, feeling the earth through her hand. "A lot actually, there's hundreds of little," she started to say. "Shish." Aang interrupted her. "I know you can see underground but don't ruin the surprise. Just watch." He blew a note on the flute and a groundhog appeared out of a nearby hole and repeated the same note. "Yeah," he said while laughing. He blew a different note and a different groundhog popped up and repeated the same note. "I'm putting an orchestra together." "Orchestra huh?" asked Sokka. "Well, la-dee-da." 3 groundhogs popped out of their holes and repeated the same notes. Momo tried going after one of them but missed, his head popping up from another hole. Aang kept playing the flute and with the groundhogs until Sokka plugged the other end of the flute with his finger. "This is great and all, but don't we have more important things to worry about?" he asked. "We should be making plans." "We did make plans," Toph reminded him. "We're all picking mini vacations." They had been though a lot lately, so they decided to do something like to relax. "There's no time for vacations," he told her with complete seriousness. They had made that decision while he had been sleeping. "I'm learning the elements as fast as I can," Aang protested. "I practice hard every day with Toph and Katara. I've been training my arrow off." "Yeah, what's wrong with having a little fun in our downtime?" Katara asked her brother. "This side of the world has been in a war for the past century," Asuma told her from where he and his team stood off to the side. "If you're a part of it, you don't have any downtime." Team Asuma had taken over protection duty after the Kuzan and its carnage. Everyone had agreed that it was time for a change in the guard. "He's right," Sokka said. "But even if you do master all the elements, then what? It's not like we have a map of the Fire Nation. Should we just head west until we reach the Fire Lord's house? Knock, knock." Hello, Fire Lord, anybody home? I don't think so. We need some intelligence if we're going to win this war. He explained urgently. Aang blew a note and a groundhog appeared under Sokka's legs. It would have repeated the note had it not seen Aquila and had thoughts of food. It just went back down the hole. All right, we'll finish our vacations and then we'll look for Sokka's intelligence, Katara said with a slight mocking tone on the word intelligence, making Aang chuckle. Both Shikamaru and Asuma looked at the two with slight disapproval. They both knew that trying to find intelligence could be the key to turning the fight into their favor. After he was done, Aang grabbed the map and opened it up. Your turn, Katara, he said. Where would you like to go on your mini vacation? She looked at the map. How about the Misty Palms Oasis? That sounds refreshing, she suggested, pointing to its location. It looked interesting on the map, so she was interested to see what it looked like in real life. Oh yeah, I've been there. It's a pristine natural ice spring. And I don't usually use the word pristine. It's one of the nature's wonders, he explained to her. Well, let's go already, Sokka told them impatiently. The sooner we're done with these mini vacations, the sooner we can get back to the more important things. He walked back towards Appa, climbing aboard. What's wrong with him? Aang asked Katara. I don't know, he's been like that ever since Kuzan, she answered honestly. Since taking part in the battle outside Kuzan, Sokka had been acting a little more serious. He still made sarcastic comments and made jokes, but they knew that something inside of him had changed. It's his way of coping with the fact that he killed someone for the first time, Asuma answered them, walking up to them while everyone else was getting back on Appa. Coping? Aang asked. Yes, coping. You guys are coping in different ways. You, Katara, and Toph are coping by delaying getting back to what you're supposed to do. He's coping by wanting to get the war over with, so he's hurrying you all along, he explained, having seen people go through this kind of thing before. Will he be all right? Katara asked. Despite what had happened between them, Sokka was still her brother. She would worry about him, even when he got paranoid about something and turned out to be wrong. Just give him some time. That's all you can do at this point, he told them before walked away towards his team and leaving them to think over his words. Everyone got on Appa and flew in the direction of the Misty Palms Oasis. However, once they got there, it was not what they were expecting. Must have changed ownership since I was here, Aang told the group, chuckling nervously before they walked in. The ice spring shown on the map was big, but in real life, it looked like a small, steaming clump of ice. The fact they saw a dog licking it didn't help either. They walked to what looked like a cantina when a cloth-covered man hawked one at Sokka's feet. But before he could do anything, Katara grabbed him and pulled him into the cantina. They entered the cantina and saw it was just a watering hole, with people both drinking and sleeping. Their attention was drawn to the bar, where the bartender was creating a drink with fruits and handing out said drink using nothing but his swords. I'm getting one, Choji stated, looking intently at the bar. You had lunch an hour ago, Ino told her teammate. It's hot out there, Ino. I'm thirsty. I don't see a problem having one of those fruity beverages while we plan our strategy, Sokka agreed. The two of them went over to the bartender to order drinks. As that happened, Aang accidentally ran into a person who had a drink, thus spilling it all over his clothes. No worries, Aang assured the man. I clean up easy. He bent the air around him to dry his clothes. The man gasped in surprise. You're a living relic, he said with excitement. Thanks, the airbender replied. I try. An air nomad, right in front of me, the man mused to himself. Then he realized that said air nomad wasn't alone. I'm Professor Zay, head of anthropology at Ba Sing Se University, he introduced himself before grabbing Aang's arm. Tell me, which of the air temples do you hail from? The Southern Temple, he answered. Oh, splendid, exclaimed the professor as he measured the boy's head. Tell me, what was the primary agricultural product of your people? Are fruit pies an agricultural product? The air nomad asked back, feeling like he was in a test. He had only been a kid before he ran away. He didn't really know anything about agricultural products. But the professor was pleased nonetheless. Oh, truly fascinating. That is one for the journal, he said to himself before pulling out said journal and writing an entry. So, Professor, Sokka began as he and the others joined the two with drinks in hand. You're obviously a well-traveled guy. Do you have a more current map? Ours seem to be a little dated. Certainly, Zay agreed. He rolled out his map on a table for Sokka to look at. What? No Fire Nation? He asked after looking at it and seeing that it was of the local area. Doesn't anyone have a good map of that place? Honestly, it was beginning to look like it was impossible to find such a map. Ignoring her brother, Katara looked at the map herself. You've made a lot of trips into the desert. All in vain, I'm afraid, Zay told her. I've found lost civilizations all over the Earth Kingdom, but I haven't found the crown jewel. Wan Shi Tong's library. You've spent years walking through the desert to find some guy's library. Toph asked in disbelief from the chair she sat in. This library is more valuable than gold, little lady. It is said to contain a vast collection of knowledge. And knowledge is priceless. Sounds like good times, she replied, sarcasm evident in her voice. Oh, it is, he said, ignoring the sarcasm. According to legend, it was built by the great knowledge spirit, Wan Shi Tong, with the help of his foxy knowledge seekers. Just for clarification, Shikamaru asked. When you say foxy knowledge seekers, do you actually mean that their foxes are their attractive women? It's best to find these things out early, so they could avoid a misunderstanding later. Personally, I hope it is attractive women, Sokka said. Or they could just look like foxes, Katara told her brother, admonishing him. You're both right, handsome little creatures, Zay said before pulling out a scroll with a building design of the library on it and placing it on the table, over the map. Wan Shi Tong and his knowledge seekers collected books from all over the world and put them on display for mankind to read, so that we might better ourselves. If this place has books from all over the world, do you think they've got info on the Fire Nation? A map, maybe? Sokka asked, hope evident in his voice. I wouldn't know. But if such a thing exists, it's in Wan Shi Tong's library. Okay then. He looked at everyone else. Then my vacation time will be spent at the library. If you have any complaints, I don't wanna hear them, he told them, keeping it short and to the point. It's troublesome, but it's also the first useful vacation we've had since you guys decided to go on a break, Shikamaru said, throwing a look at Aang and Katara. They weren't quite sure if he was insulting them or not. Hey, what about me? Asked Toph. When do I get to pick? You gotta work here a little longer before you can qualify for vacation time, Sokka told her. She just slammed the drink in her hands onto the table, showing them that she was annoyed by his words. Of course, there's the matter of finding it, Zay admitted. I've made several trips into the Siwang Desert and almost died each time. I'm afraid that desert impossible to cross, he noted with a disappointed tone. Sokka and Aang shared a look and had the same idea. Professor, would you like to see our sky bison? Sokka asked him. You actually have a sky bison? Zay asked them, both surprised and joyful. Before anyone could answer, they all heard loud barking coming from outside the cantina. That's Aquila, the tribesman exclaimed, running out of the cantina. Everyone else followed quickly on his tail. They ran out of the cantina and outside the oasis's walls, where they had left the animals. Aquila stood in front of Appa, growling and barking at a group of cloth-covered people. Appa was growling as well. Sandbenders, shoo! Away from the bison and the wolf, ordered Zay as the group reached them. They did as they were told, boarding their sand sailor and sailing away into the desert. Naruto entered the place via the usual way. Honestly, he muttered, walking down the side of the wall. The least he can do is let me know where the back door is. That way I don't have to do this every time. Is he still a little miffed about the fact I found the airbending scrolls and read them without his permission? He knew he shouldn't have read them, but it was too good a chance to pass up at the time. He was lucky enough not to end as food. He landed on solid ground and looked around. Where is he? He asked aloud before shrugging his shoulders. Whatever, I'm just here to do what I promised to do. He walked away, already knowing where to go. So, how much do you want to bet that you're going to find one of his traps this trip? The QB asked from within. Are you kidding? He asked back. That's not a bet, that's a guarantee. Appa flew on into the desert with the heat of the desert sun above them. The professor sat on his head along with Aang. Tell me, Sky Bison. Are you the last of your breed? Zay asked him. He only grunted in response. Oh, delightful, I only wish I spoke his tongue. Oh, the stories this beast could tell. Momo hopped over to where he sat and began chattering. Shush, chatty monkey, he told the lemur. Aang looked at the scroll with the building design. Wow, shouldn't be too hard to find a place like this out here, he said confidently. They should be able to see it from a distance if it was as big as the scroll told them. But they flew on, seeing nothing. Does this place even exist? Toph groaned after feeling the heat of the sun for a good amount of time. Some say it doesn't, Zay told her cheerfully. Quote ellipsis. Shouldn't you have mentioned that before? She asked him grumpily. They kept flying on. All was silent until Toph shouted out. There it is. She pointed out to the desert. Everyone looked at where she was pointing and saw nothing. They all looked at her. That's what it will sound like when one of you spots it. She told them before waving her hand in front of her face with a mocking smile on her face. So, Professor Zay, Choji said, trying to kill time by asking the man some questions. What is it exactly that you want to look for in the library? I just want to find it and read what it has to offer. But if I wanted to actually find something. Zay drifted off into thought. I guess I would try to find what Professor Uzumaki was looking for. That got Team Asuma's attention right away. What did you say the professor's name was? Asuma asked. He wanted to be sure he had heard right. Professor Uzumaki, he was the previous head of anthropology, the professor repeated. Why do you ask? The Uzumaki clan was destroyed during the last Shinobi World War. The survivors were scattered. We had never thought that one ended up here. Asuma looked at the professor, curiosity showing on his face. Is he still alive? Unfortunately, I don't know, Zay told them. He retired and then disappeared into the Siwang Desert, looking for the very library we are. He thought something over. When was this last Shinobi World War? He asked Asuma. About 16 years ago. He frowned once he heard those words. I don't think Professor Uzumaki came here because of his clan's destruction. What makes you say that? The Konoha shinobi asked him. Because he was the head of the anthropology department for over 50 years, Zay told them. He retired 10 years ago. Did you know him well? Choji asked. It sounded like he did. I was his student and helper, he answered with pride. In fact, he often told me about his home country. Why did he want to find the library? Ino asked him, curious to know. The only Uzumaki she had known was Naruto, and she never remembered him as the scholarly type. The idea of an Uzumaki professor sounded almost alien to her. Professor Uzumaki was convinced that somehow the history of the bending countries and the history of the elemental countries were connected, he explained. He believed that the beginning of the Avatar also had something to do with the history of the shinobi, to be specific, the person who started the shinobi era. If I remember correctly, he called this particular person the Sage of the Six Paths. That's the guy who started the shinobi era, all right. No one knows what his name was, Shikamaru said, lifting his head up from where he lay in the saddle. At least, that's according to the troublesome legends. He let his fall back down so he could look at the sky, hoping to see if there were any clouds. Professor Uzumaki hunted everywhere for evidence to support his hypothesis, but he could only find scraps of information, which led him to believe that the answers he was looking for were in Wan Shitong's library. However, the university would not allow him to go look for it, so he retired. Why would he think the answers would be in the library? Sokka asked him. According to the information he gathered, The library holds tomes and scrolls that speak of the era the first paragons lived in as well as the history dealing with the beginning of the Avatar. Sokka looked down at the paragon medallion hanging from his neck. Are you sure? He asked the professor. He knew little of the paragons' past, so he was curious to know what had happened. I don't know. That's why I want to find the library. They flew on for a few more minutes. The heat kept beating down on them, making them start to sweat. It shouldn't be this hard to spot a giant, ornate building from the air, Katara said as she and Sokka looked over the side of the saddle. Sokka looked through his telescope to look through the desert and saw something. Down there, he called out, getting everyone's attention. What's that? He pointed down at the object. Aang landed Appa in front of what appeared to be a tower buried in the sand. Forget it, Katara said as she held the scroll of the library designs. It's obviously not what we're looking for. The building in this drawing is enormous. They all then saw something shine on nearby dune. On the top of said dune was a canine-like animal with a scroll in its mouth. What kind of animal is that? Sokka asked as they watched it head towards the tower and then run up the tower wall before disappearing through a window. I think that was one of the knowledge seekers. Zay said in excitement. I don't know about that, but I know I saw a fox, Choji said. We must be close to the library, the professor announced with enthusiasm. Sokka looked at the drawing. No, this is the library. Look. He pointed to the tower buried in the sand and then to the tower on the top of the building in the drawing. They were one and the same. It's completely buried. Realization dawned on Zay's face. The library is buried. My life's ambition is full of sand. He fell to the ground and then his attitude did a complete 180. Well, time to start excavating, he said cheerfully before grabbing a small trowel and digging up the sand. The others looked at him in disbelief. He was going to need more than a trowel to get through that much sand. Toph walked up to the tower wall and placed a hand on it, feeling the entire structure. Actually, that won't be necessary. The inside seems to be completely intact. And it's huge. The fox went through a window up there, Asuma said, pointing upwards at the window. I say we climb up there and give it a look, Sokka suggested. Toph folded her arms. I say you guys go ahead without me, she told them. You got something against libraries? Katara asked her. I've held books before and I've gotta tell you, they don't exactly do it for me. Oh right, sorry, she awkwardly replied, once again remembering that Toph was blind. Let me know if they have something you can listen to. That would be something interesting for her. Asuma had borrowed Sokka's boomerang and tied rope to it. He threw it at the window and made sure it wouldn't shake loose. He began to climb up with Zay and Katara behind him while his team brought up the rear. Aang and Sokka, however, were with Appa and Aquila. Don't worry buddy, Aang told his sky bison. I'm not making you go underground ever again. You can stay out here with Toph. That goes for you too, Aquila, Sokka told the wolf. And remember, if Toph tries to do anything stupid, aim for the hair. Aquila nodded in answer, ignoring Toph's protest. The two of them left, leaving a blind earthbending master with a sky bison and a white wolf. What's up? That was the first question she asked the two of them. Everyone else was climbing down the rope into the library, the sound of feet scraping against the stone tower echoed out into the desert. When they got past the insides of the tower, and felt the cool air wash over them, they saw the entire library. Oh, it's so breathtaking. Zay stated as they all hung onto the rope. The spirits spared no expense in designing this place. Look at those beautiful buttresses. The last sentence sent Sokka, Katara, and Aang into fits of giggles. What's funny? The professor asked them. Nothing, Aang told him. We just like architecture. As do I, the professor said, missing the point. Whatever, will you people hurry it up? Ino said higher up on the rope. She didn't want to be hanging on the thing all day long. Soon enough, they all got off the rope and onto a bridge in the middle of the hallway. My word, began Zay. The exquisite mosaic handiwork of this tile-rendered avian symbol. He trailed off when he realized that everyone was giving him a weird look. Quote ellipsis. Nice, owl, he finished off lamely. Suddenly hearing movement coming from behind them, everyone ran towards the end of the bridge and behind columns. The noise of movement got louder. Aang snuck a peek at who was making the noise and saw that it was a very big owl standing in the middle of the bridge looking at the rope. Its head then turned to look around the library and did an almost 360 turn to look at where they were hiding. I know you're back there, it said aloud. Its voice alone sent shivers down their spines, even the shinobi. Aang ducked his head back behind the column. Zay decided to be the brave one and walked back onto the bridge. Hello. I'm Professor Zay, head of anthropology at Ba Sing Se University, he introduced himself before bowing to the owl, trying to sound friendly. You should leave the way you came, unless you want to become a stuffed head of anthropology, the owl bluntly stated as he looked over at a column. Zay followed his gaze and stuffed animal heads on the column. He rubbed his neck unconsciously. The notion of having his head stuffed was not an appealing one. Everyone else emerged from where they were hiding. Are you the spirit who brought this library to the physical world? Sokka asked cautiously. He got the feeling that this was a spirit much like Ko. You had to be incredibly careful and tread lightly. Indeed, the owl answered. I am Wan Shi Tong, he who knows 10,000 things, and you are obviously humans, which, by the way, are no longer permitted in my study. His head kept swerving between Sokka and Zay, who stood in the front of the group. What do you have against humans? Aang asked. He didn't see anything wrong with them. Then again, he was a human, so he was a little biased. Humans only bother learning things to get the edge on other humans. Like that firebender who came to this place a few years ago, looking to destroy his enemy. He leaned in closer to Sokka. So, who are you trying to destroy? He asked, a subtle dangerous tone entering his voice. Sokka thought quickly, trying to think up a convincing lie. Not to destroy, but to understand, he finally said. Please let him buy it, please. He silently prayed. The owl just stared at him. Quote ellipsis. If you're going to lie to all-knowing spirit being, you should at least put some effort into it, he told the water paragon, the last bit with slight exasperation. I'm not lying, Sokka protested. I'm here with the Avatar, he's the bridge between our worlds. He'll vouch for me. He grabbed Aang and put him in front of the owl. Yeah, I'll vouch, Aang told the spirit, a little uncertain. We will not abuse the knowledge in your library, good spirit. You have my word. He promised the owl, bowing his head with everyone else following his example. Very well, Wan Shi Tong answered. I'll let you peruse my vast collection, on one condition. To prove your worth as scholars, you have to contribute some worthwhile knowledge. Zay stepped up to the bat first. He knelt and held out a book. Please accept this tome as a donation to your library, he said. First edition, very nice, the spirit said as he took the book with his wing. Zay back away and let Katara step up. I have an authentic waterbending scroll, she offered, showing said scroll. Oh, these illustrations are quite stylish. He took the scroll. Aang thought about what he was to give. Oh, I know. He reached into his shirt and pulled out the wanted poster of him. I suppose that counts. Asuma stepped forward. Wasn't really expecting this, but my father did teach me to be prepared. He reached into his vest and pulled out a book. Here you are, he offered the book to the owl. The history of the land of fire, that is acceptable. He took the book without any argument. Ino was next. I have a book on flower gardening, she offered. A bit unnecessary here in the desert, but interesting all the same. Perhaps some of the methods in your book will be useful when I tend to my garden. He took the book, leaving the others to wonder where he could hide a garden in a library that was underground. Choji moved forward. I have a book about the recipes my clan has created, he said, holding the book in his hands. A cookbook is knowledgeable, he agreed, taking the book out of the Akamichi's hands. Shikamaru walked forward. I think I've got the right thing here, he said. Useful ways to use your frying pan in your house and on your husband by Yoshino Nara, Wan Shitong read the title of the book with a small amount of confusion in his voice. My mom wrote it for the wives of the Nara clan, troublesome woman, he muttered. It sold well, so there's no danger of me losing this thing. Sounds intriguing all the same, the owl told him before taking the book. Sokka was the only one left. I don't really have anything to give you, Great Spirit. But can I offer you a deal? What is it you have to offer? He asked, sounding a little interested. When I am old and wish to write about my life, I will come back and give the original copy to you once it is done. That was the only thing he had to go with. He just hoped that it was accepted. The spirit stared at him with unblinking eyes. Very few have ever tried to make me an offer before, and I have rarely accepted, he stated. But I find the terms acceptable. I will expect your memoirs to be given to me when it's done. Enjoy the library, he told the entire group. Great Wan Shitong, may I ask you something? Zay asked the owl, stepping 2 steps forward. What is it? He asked, vaguely annoyed. 10 years ago, my predecessor disappeared looking for your library, he began. Ah yes, there was a fellow who found my library around that time. He was close to death when he found it. Did he manage to find what he was looking for? He certainly hoped that was the case. Yes, although he took ill afterwards and died soon after. I had him buried in the basement and had what he was looking for moved to a different part of the library. Is that all? Yes, thank you. He bowed his head in thanks. Suddenly the library shook, and they all heard a faint boom. Then they heard someone yelling. Damn it, Wan Shitong. How many places do you have here that are flooded? How did they get flooded in the first place? You live in the middle of the desert. Also, why is it that you have so many areas that booby-trapped? Here I'm trying to do what I promised and I keep getting almost killed in the process. I need to be paid for this, you hear me? I should get paid. The voice was somewhat faint, but they could still what the person was saying. If you'll excuse me, the owl said. I need to take care of this. He flew off the bridge and into the depths of the library, the sound of his wings flapping in the air echoing beneath them. Ino looked over the edge of the bridge. Do you think we should ask what that was all about? She asked the group. Shikamaru shook his head. It's too troublesome to do so, he told her. But something was bugging him. That loud voice sounded a little familiar. You know, there are days where I think your boss is an idiot, he told a nearby fox as he stared at the problem in front of them. It was a door that, if opened, would flood the room with water. Naruto had managed to close the door before the entire room went underwater, but there were still puddles on the floor and his pants were still soaked. And you also know that I would kill you for making such an insult, Wan Shitong answered as he appeared in the room. Well, you can't kill me. I'm the one who's restoring your library in case you forgot. He looked back at the problem. Just how many traps do you have rigged in this library? This is the 5th one I've encountered on this trip alone. The owl thought it over. I believe that so far, you have only encountered 2.5% of the traps in my library, he answered with a shrug. Naruto just stared at the giant bird. You are one paranoid owl, you know that, right? I can and will defend my library by any means, the paranoid owl defended his choices and actions. He sighed, knowing that he wasn't going to get anywhere with that. Whatever. Just get rid of this trap so I can get on with my job. The spirit walked up to the door and just waved a wing over it. It is safe now, he announced before walking away. Why do I have a hard time believing him? He asked the fox, who just cocked its head and blinked. Why did I even bother asking you? He asked before he opened the door again. Thankfully, no water came flying out to hit him in the face. Well, on with the work. Toph sat in the sand with Appa and Aquila. So, you like flying? Was the question she asked the sky bison after a period of silence. He just scratched his ear. Of course, I'm more comfortable on the ground, where I can see. She said. Well, I don't see the way you do. I feel the vibrations in the ground with my feet. She grabbed a handful of sand and let fall from her hand. But the sand is loose and shifty, it makes everything look fuzzy. Appa gave a big yawn and Akila gave her a look. Not that there anything wrong with Fuzzy. She quickly told them. Everyone was looking through the bookshelves while a nearby fox put a book back into the shelf where it came from. Hey, look at these weird lion turtle things. Aang said, holding a picture of the creatures for everyone to look at. Sokka looked at the picture. They were weird, but he wasn't surprised. I've seen weirder, he stated. He walked away, browsing through the many different books. Aang, Katara called out. Did you know in a past life you were left-handed? She asked as she walked over to him with a book in her hands. I always knew I was special, he replied with a big grin. Well, you are the Avatar after all, Shikamaru drawled. He was very special. Be nice, Shikamaru, Ino told her teammate. Sokka kept walking around, looking at books and scrolls. If what they had interested him, he took it and put it in his bag. He then came upon a glass container that held a burnt piece of paper with writing on it. The darkest day in Fire Nation history, he read. It's got a date at the top, but it doesn't say anything else, he said to himself. Looking around to see if anyone was watching him, he pulled out his machete to pry open the glass and took the piece of paper out. Sheathing the machete and rolling up the piece of the paper, he began to walk away when the others showed up. Sokka, where are you going? Aang asked him as he began to run off. Whenever the tribesmen started running, something was up. I want to know what to the Fire Nation on their darkest day, he told them, holding up the scroll. This could be promising. He ran through the library with the others right behind him, racing past aisle after aisle of ancient books. The information on the Fire Nation should be right up in here, he said as he came to a door with the symbol for fire above it. The door was close and when he tried to open it, it wouldn't open. It's barred from the other side. There's a note right here, Katara said, pointing to a piece of paper on the wall next to the door. Asuma took it and read aloud to the group. To whom it may concern. Due to an idiot's notion that no one should know about his nation's weaknesses, he burned all the information on the Fire Nation. Therefore, this section of the library is closed for restoration. Thank you for understanding. Naruto, Paragon of the Fire Nation. P.S. If you're wondering how long it's going to take for it to be completely restored, I honestly don't know. Naruto's been here, Choji asked in surprise. It was beginning to look like everywhere they went, the blonde had been there too even when they weren't looking for him. That's not important right now, Sokka told him, staring at the barred door. I need to know what happened on the darkest day, he muttered to himself. It could be the key to turning the war in their favor. Hearing an animal whimper, they all turned around and saw one of the knowledge seekers standing on its hind legs. Hello, little weird fox guy. Sokka greeted him uncertainly. The fox got back on all fours, turned around and pointed. Seems it's trying to assist you, Zay noted. Sure, he told the fox. I guess I'll follow you. The fox took off and led them through the library, their footsteps echoing in the air. It finally stopped at a large golden design on the wall. The fox went through a small hole next to the design and disappeared. The inner part of the design began to roll to the side, revealing that it was a door. On the other side of the door was the fox. They walked into the room, which looked like someone had painted a surrounding landscape on the walls as well as the sky. In the middle of the room stood a pedestal with 4 different sets of dials and a lever. The fox walked up to the lever and pushed on it. The sky turned into the night sky, showing all the stars as well as the path of the moon. This room is a true marvel. A mechanical wonder, stated Zay. It's a planetarium that shows the heavens moving. Cool. Choji exclaimed as he watched the thing work. He had never seen something like this before. This is beautiful, but how is it helpful? Sokka asked as the night disappeared and the sky reappeared. Maybe these dials represent dates and times, Katara suggested as she looked at the pedestal. It looked like it to her. Sokka, try entering that date from that parchment you took. Shish, Katara, he shushed her. Not in front of the fox, he's with the owl. The fox dropped its tail and ears, looking like he did something wrong. Looking at the date on the parchment, Sokka approached the dials and set the date. When he was done, he went over to the lever and pushed on it. The room started up again, turning day into night. Wow, I gotta hand it to you, Sokka. You picked the best mini vacation for sure, Aang told him. Night turned back into day, but then day immediately darkened. Hey wait, what happened to the sun? Katara asked. Aang scowled. Great, you must have broken it, he said. Have a little more trust, Aang, Asuma told him. It never hurt to have a little more trust in your friends. Sokka looked at the planetarium. It's not broken, he said, realizing what it was showing them. The sun is behind the moon. It's a solar eclipse. It's literally the darkest day in Fire Nation history. He grabbed Aang by the shoulders. Now I get it. Something awful happened on that day. I don't know what, but I do know why. Firebenders lose their bending during a solar eclipse. He let go of Aang, who grunted in pain. Sorry. That makes sense, Katara agreed. I mean, think of what the lunar eclipse at the North Pole did to the waterbenders. This is huge. The fox walked up to Sokka and stood on its hind legs in a begging position. Fine, you earned it, Sokka acknowledged, taking a treat out of his bag and tossing to the fox. We've gotta get this information to the Earth King in Ba Sing Se, he told everyone. We'll wait for the next eclipse. Then we'll invade the Fire Nation when they're totally helpless. The Fire Lord is going down. Before his mood could reach the others, a large shadow loomed over him. Mortals are so predictable, and such terrible liars, Wan Shi Tong said as he stood before them. You betrayed my trust. From the beginning, you intended to misuse this knowledge for evil purposes. You don't understand. Sokka protested. If anyone's evil, it's the Fire Nation. We need this information. They had to end the war. You think you're the first person to think their war was justified, the owl demanded in an angry voice. Countless others before you have come here, seeking weapons or weaknesses or battle strategies. We had no choice, Aang told him. Please, we're just desperate to protect the ones we love. And now, I'm going to protect what I love, the spirit stated. He started to flap his wings, creating large gusts of wind. The library began to rumble as his wings flapped. What are you doing? The air nomad asked, worry and panic seeping into his voice. I'm taking my knowledge back. No one will ever abuse it again, he declared as sand began to fall from the ceiling. He's sinking the building. Katara exclaimed, realizing what he was doing. We gotta get out of here. I'm afraid I can't allow that. The owl changed into an almost dragon-like figure. You already know too much. But before he could do anything to them, he was hit by what could be described as a brown, spiky boulder. Nikuden Hari Sensha, spiked human bullet tank. Choji called out as he sent Wan Shi Tong to the ground. The owl shook his head, trying to get out of his daze. Let's move, people. Asuma ordered the group. Everyone ran out of the planetarium with Wan Shi Tong on their heels. They kept focus on what was in front of them because, quite frankly, no one wanted to look back. Naruto felt the library start to rumble. Now what's going on? He grumbled. He looked up from where he was working and saw that all the foxes had disappeared. He then noticed that sand was falling from the ceiling and onto the floor. What's with the sand? He thought. The owl said that this place was airtight. So how is? His train of thought stopped as he realized what that meant. He isn't. He is, the QB said as he watched the sand come down. I'm going to kill that owl, the blonde yelled as he ran out of the room to look for Wan Shi Tong. The three of them sat together so that they could get some shade. Appa had put his tail against the tower and when he felt it began to move down, he tried to warn Toph by growling at her. Aquila also realized the danger and started barking. I already told you to, I don't want to snuggle, she told him as she sat on Appa's leg. When Appa rose up to walk away, she lost her support and fell to the ground. Getting back up, she faced the library's tower and felt the vibrations. Library sinking. Library sinking. She ran towards the tower and shoved her hands into it, trying to use her earthbending to stop it. However, She was impeded as the sand beneath her didn't give a good grip. Letting go of the tower, she bent the sand beneath her feet into rough form of earth. She took hold of the tower again to stop from sinking. They ran through the library, trying to escape the angry knowledge spirit that was chasing them. In the process of chasing, the owl broke many of the shelves, destroying many of the books. As they tried to get across the bridge, Zay turned to face their pursuer. Great knowledge spirit, I beg you, do not destroy your vast collection of priceless tomes, he said to Wan Shitong, who was having none of it. Seeing that he was about to attack, Aang bent the air to pull Zay back towards them, making him drop the books he had in his hands. He bent the air towards Wan Shitong, sending him off the bridge and into the depth of the library. We gotta get back to the surface, he told everyone as he led them away from the bridge. They had to get out of there if they wanted to live. Sokka stayed where he was and looked back across the bridge. Sokka, let's go. Katara called out to him. But we still don't know when the next eclipse is going to happen, he protested. Don't be stupid. We'll find out later. There's not going to be a later, Katara. Ino told her. If the library sank into the desert, they would not be able to find it again. And if they were stuck inside when it sank, they would not live long. She's right, the tribesmen agreed with her. If we leave this place, we'll never get the information. Aang, Shikamaru, come with me to the planetarium, I need cover. The two quickly walked over to him. Katara, get everyone out of here, he ordered. But she was interrupted when Wan Shitong made his appearance again, smashing through the bookcases. Go, he yelled. Hurry, Sokka, she told him as she ran off with the owl behind her. Sokka, Aang and Shikamaru ran back across the bridge. As he was being chased, Zay leapt into an aisle to avoid the owl and then noticed a book that piqued his interest. As Toph tried to hold the tower up, there was a noise coming in from behind them. Both Appa and Aquila turned to face the noise. Aquila took a sniff in the wind and began to growl. What is it now? Toph asked them. It turned out to be the sandbenders coming back for Appa. One of them bent a gust of sand at Appa, obscuring him. Who's there? Demanded Toph. The sand sailors began to encircle Appa. Aquila joined his larger friend in the fray. The three of them ran back into the planetarium. Why are we doing this? Aang asked as they entered the room. Because if this calendar can tell us about eclipses in the past, then maybe it'll project when the next one will be, Sokka explained as he approached the pedestal. You can't possibly check every single date, he objected. They didn't have the time for that. I don't have to. We just need to check every date before Sozin's comet arrives. Because after that, well, try not to think about that, the tribesman told him. You better start working then, Shikamaru said. We don't know when that owl is going to show up. For all they knew, he was right beyond the corner. Sokka and Aang began to work while Shikamaru covered the door. It took some time, as each date they tried wasn't the right one. Both the sun and the moon kept missing each other or not even coming close to one another. Come on, eclipse, Aang said as he pushed the lever on the latest date they tried. The planetarium started up and then soon darkened. That's it, the solar eclipse. Sokka stated with glee as he looked at the moon covering the sun, it's just a few months away. He quickly wrote down the date. Got it, now let's get to Ba Sing Se. They ran out of the planetarium, trying to get back to the others before they became owl food. The sandbenders surrounded Appa and threw ropes with weights tied at the ends over him. They proceeded to try and pull him down, but he resisted. Aquila tried to help by attacking the sandbenders and making them lose their grip on the rope, but he could only attack one at a time and they kept getting back up. Appa sent them flying by jerking around and flapping his tail. It sent a few sandbenders flying but not all of them. Toph heard the struggle. Don't make me put this down, she threatened. She let go of the tower and bent a stream of sand at them. But because she couldn't really see through the sand, her attack flew harmlessly by. Put a muzzle on him, someone ordered. A rope was thrown over Appa's mouth, but he snapped it off. Ropes were then thrown at his horns. He tried to fly away, but the sandbenders threw ropes at his legs and pulled him down to the ground. A sand sailor pulled up next to them and they tied Appa to it. Aquila was still attacking the sandbenders and going after the ropes that held Appa. "Will somebody take care of that damn dog?" Toph heard another voice called out. She heard flesh hitting flesh and Aquila yelping. "Stupid cur. Just lay there and die," the first voice said as she heard a blade being drawn and cutting through flesh. The sand sailors flew off with Appa in tow. "No!" Toph cried. "Stop sinking." She let go of the tower and bent streams of sand in random directions, but the sandbenders were already gone and she still had to hold the library in place. "I'm sorry, Appa," she said to herself, but then realized something. "Aquila. Aquila, are you there?" she called out. She heard the pained whimperings of him getting closer, but she couldn't make sure where he was. She had to focus on holding the library up so the others could escape. Katara's group kept on running from Wan Shi Tong. "Split up," she ordered the others. They scattered, but the owl stayed on her. Making a quick turn, she disappeared from his sight and hid at the end of a bookshelf, holding Momo. She tried to stay quiet, but her panting sounded like it filled the entire library, at least to her. The knowledge spirit searched for her among the bookshelves. "At least I'll have one specimen to add to my collection," he announced as he noticed Momo's tail hanging out from behind a bookshelf. He made a lunge for them, but they were already moving. He went after them, now taking more care to avoid the shelves. They made their way back to the bridge, joining up again with Asuma, Ino and Choji. They ran out to the bridge, but Wan Shi Tong was right behind them. Katara stopped and turned to face him, assuming a waterbending stance. "Your waterbending won't do you much good here," the owl told her as he loomed over her. "I've studied northern water style, southern water style, even foggy swamp style." Suddenly, from above them, Aang flew over with Sokka hanging on. Sokka let go, fell towards Wan Shi Tong and hit him hard with a book, knocking him unconscious. "That's called Sokka style," he told the unconscious owl. "Learn it." Aang and Shikamaru rejoined them. Everyone started to climb up the rope, but Sokka realized that not everyone was on the rope. He spotted the missing person over by a bookshelf. "Wait. Professor, let's go," he called out, getting his attention. "I'm not leaving," Zay answered as he sat on the ground, surrounded by books. "I can't. I spent too long trying to find this place. There's not another collection of knowledge like this on Earth. I could spend an eternity in here." He looked content. It was at this point that Wan Shi Tong woke back up. But before he could do anything, a loud voice called out. "Hey!" The voice yelled out, stopping everyone from moving. They all turned to see an angry Naruto standing on the other end of the bridge. "What in the name of the Biju are you doing, you stupid owl?" "I thought I knew that voice sounded familiar." Shikamaru realized as he looked at the blonde. It was Naruto. "I'm sinking my library," the spirit replied simply. "Stop being an idiot," he yelled. "We had a deal. I bring you books from the Fire Nation to restore your library and you don't try to kill me or turn me into a meal. And the last time I checked, sinking the library while I'm still in it qualifies as killing me. I thought spirits stuck to the deals they made." "Yes, that's true," he said, sounded offended at the mere idea. Sokka saw an opportunity at the owl's words. "If you try to kill us or sink the library, that means you tried to back out of our deal first as well," he shouted down at him. Wan Shi Tong huffed. "A spirit always sticks to the deals they make," he said to them both. "Then stop sinking the library," Naruto told him. "And let us go as well," Sokka called out. The spirit almost seemed conflicted until he took a sigh of defeat and turned back into an owl. "Very well, I will hold to the deals I've made." He flapped his wings again and the library stopped rumbling and the sand stopped pouring down from the ceiling. He looked at the people on the rope. "It would be wise for you to leave now." They scurried up the rope when they heard the command. They soon hopped out the window and disappeared from. Wan Shi Tong walked back into the library's depth. What about me?" asked Zay as he stood up from where he sat, looking unsure. Naruto walked over to him and stuck out a hand. Congratulations, he said. You've just became a resident of Wan Shi Tong's library and his helper. That means whenever I'm in, you help me restore the library. Zay took the hand and shook it. I'm glad to be of assistance, he said with one of the biggest grins Naruto had ever seen. So long as you make yourself useful, I guess, he said as he walked away. Zay followed him, almost like a lost puppy. When the library stopped shaking, Toph finally let go of it. She stumbled to the ground. She heard the others land on the ground behind her. She just sat down and bowed her head. We got it, Sokka told his sister. There's a solar eclipse coming. They gave each other a hug. The Fire Nation is in trouble now. That is good news, Asuma agreed. We should notify the other teams and Lady Hokage as well. If they did that, she could send more shinobi to help aid in whatever plan Sokka was thinking of. All's well with the world right now, Shikamaru said dryly. Aang looked around but couldn't see his sky bison. He walked over to Toph. Where's Appa? He asked. Toph simply shook her head. The action made tears well up in his eyes. One dropped down his cheek. That was when Sokka noticed something. Hey, where's Aquila? He asked. He heard a whimper of pain coming from his left. Aquila, he called as he turned and saw the wolf lying on his side in the sand, blood coming out of his stomach. He wasn't breathing either. Aquila. He ran over to the wolf and picked him up, trying to stop the bleeding. Somebody do something, he yelled at them. Ino ran over. Don't worry, Sokka, she reassured him. I'm trained as a healer and I've helped Kiba's clan heal their animals. Just hold him steady. Her hands glowed green and she placed them over the wound. It's not deep, he just lost some blood. She frowned. It looks someone kicked him in the side though. I think a few ribs might be cracked but I can fix them. Sokka stared at Aquila with worry and anger in his eyes. Whoever did this better hope they don't meet me, he growled. They would be in for a very painful lesson in manners. Everyone just stood there, as oncoming sandstorm approached them. End. Author's note. Thank you for all the reviews you've sent me. Yes, I know I stopped the library from sinking and I didn't kill off Zay. How else was Naruto supposed to get out of there? Even he dies from that amount of sand crushing down on him. Odds are that there are a few of you out there who wanted Aquila to be taken captive with Appa, but I figured that this was more appropriate. It will give him something to do in the next chapter. Another Uzumaki will be mentioned, but not for a while. For those of you who want Team Kakashi to go to the Bending Countries, sorry, that's not going to happen. They are staying in Konoha and we won't see them for quite some time. Bodyguard of Azula. Location: Earth Kingdom. The sandstorm had blown in, mixing wind with sand. The group stood on the dune next to the tower leading to Wan Shi Tong's library. Ino had managed to heal Aquila. She told Sokka to make sure the wolf got a lot of rest and to take it easy. He was glad Aquila was okay. Aang, however, was another story. How could you let them take Appa? He demanded of Toph. Why didn't you stop them? He was enraged and he wanted to blame someone for the loss of his sky bison. I couldn't, she protested, trying to defend herself. The library was sinking. You guys were still inside and you could have to come to get us. I could have saved him. She was too busy stopping the library from being buried, Aang, and you know it, Shikamaru told him. If she had to come to get us, we would be dead and Appa would still have been taken. But he could already tell that Aang didn't hear him. He's right, Toph said. I can hardly feel any vibrations out here. The sandbenders snuck up on me and there wasn't time for. You just didn't care. Aang cut her off. You never liked Appa. You wanted him gone. Aang, stop it, Katara told him. She could see that he was angry and tried to keep him calm. You know Toph did all she could. She saved our lives. Our lives won't mean much if we stay here in this storm, Asuma noted. The sand swirled all around them. If it got any worse, the only people he knew who could get out of it would be shinobi from Suna. That's all any of you guys care about. Yourselves, the Avatar yelled, lashing out at anyone who was nearby. You don't care whether Appa is okay or not. Knock it off, Aang. Sokka barked, not sounding like his usual goofy self. Instead, he sounded like he had authority and knew how to use it. You're not the only one who's angry here. Or did you forget that Aquila tried to fight the Sandbenders off and got hurt in the process? Shut up, Sokka, he yelled back. Aquila's not the one who got captured. Appa was. Guys, calm down, Katara told the two of them, trying to play peacemaker. We can't afford to be fighting now. Aang stomped away from the group. I'm going after Appa, he declared. He opened up his gilder and flew off. Aang, wait. But he was already gone, flying off into the desert. That kind of attitude would have gotten him severely punished if he was a shinobi, Shikamaru stated. He could already imagine the Hokage sending the air nomad flying through a wall. He's not a shinobi, Shikamaru, Choji told his friend. He could see the same thing, but he also knew it probably would never happen. Still doesn't mean he can go and do something like that. He left us here. If any Konoha shinobi did that without a particularly good reason, they would be treated like scum when they returned. In any case, we better start walking, Katara told everyone. We're the only people who know about the solar eclipse. We have to get that information to Boss Sing Se. They all nodded in agreement and walked off in silence, going back into the desert. Zuko and Iroh rode on the ostrich horse. Ever since he figured out how to breathe lightning, Zuko had practiced trying to use it. He soon figured out that using it wasn't the problem, generating it was. The normal way to generate lightning was to move your arms in a circular motion, creating the lightning on your fingertips and discharging it from there. Considering that he was breathing the lightning, both he and his uncle agreed that the movements of the hands were not necessary. Eventually, they figured out that for Zuko to generate the lightning, he had to imagine himself and then break it down into his yin and his yang, then bring them back together. Once that was figured out, Zuko had to practice the imaging. He had made better timing after some practice, but it still took him a little while to do the entire process, which made the breath of lightning a risky move in combat. He also did the imaging practice while moving, but it was slower as his mind also had to deal with how the flow of combat went. And so, they rode on. Feeling that they should stop, Iroh began to make fake sounds of pain while clutching his left shoulder. Maybe we should make camp, Zuko finally said. It was obvious that's what his uncle wanted him to do. No please, Iroh told him. Don't stop just for me. He continued to make the fake sounds of pain until Zuko finally stopped the ostrich horse. He hopped down from the saddle and sat down on a nearby rock while his nephew attended to the ostrich horse. The ostrich horse turned its head and gave a low cry of warning, making Zuko move into a firebending stance. What now? Iroh asked with tried exasperation. His question was soon answered when they surrounded by 5 Komodo rhinos. The thing was, the riders weren't all wearing the same uniform. Colonel Monk, he said as he stood up from the rock. What a pleasant surprise. If you're surprised that we're here, then the Dragon of the West has lost a few steps, the colonel said. Though I'm not surprised the scarred dragon didn't hear us approaching until it was too late. The brat is still wet behind the ears. His voice was filled with scorn as he said those words. The 5 riders prepared themselves for a fight. You know these guys? Zuko asked his uncle, ignoring the insult thrown at him. Sure, Iroh told him. Colonel Monk and the rough rhinos are legendary. Each one is a different kind of weapon specialist. They are also a very capable singing group. And frankly, he preferred the singing to the fighting. We're not here to give a concert. We're here to apprehend fugitives, the colonel told them. Although, I would appreciate it if you two would just surrender. We are feeling generous today, after redeeming ourselves in Kuzan. Zuko's eyebrows were raised when Colonel Monk mentioned Kuzan. What happened there? Surprisingly, it was Vakir who spoke first. If you did not know already, we barely succeeded in defending the colony from an incoming Earth Kingdom army, and the Avatar showed up at the same time. It was also funny when Governor Shun told us that the Avatar had an argument with the Earth Kingdom colonel on how the colony would be taken, Ogde said, laughing lightly. Zuko and Iroh looked at each other in confusion. Why would the Avatar argue with someone who was supposed to be his ally? Luckily, Lord Naruto came up with a plan to defeat them. That's nice, but enough chit-chat. Colonel Monk turned the rhino back towards the two travelers. Well, will you two surrender or not? Would you like some tea first? I'd love some, Iroh asked Colonel Monk, ignoring his question in the process. He looked to another of the riders. How about you, Kachi? I make you as a Jasmine man. Am I right? Enough stalling, round them up, ordered the colonel. The rider twirling the chains threw them at the two. Iroh kicked them away, sending them wrapping around another rhino's legs. Moving forward in a roll to dodge a fire arrow and ball of fire, he smacked the rhino with chains wrapped around its leg on its back, sending it off. That took care of two of the riders, the one on the rhino and the one who threw the chains. Vakir fired off one arrow at Zuko, which he chopped in half and returned fire with a small fireball. It went the wood of the bow and snapped the string, rendering him useless. The colonel stepped in and bent fire at Iroh, who deflected the fire and sent some of his own back at him. Meanwhile, Zuko moved around to the rear of the rhino and jumped onto its back, behind the colonel, who he sent flying from the saddle with a stream of fire. Iroh went for the ostrich horse and got back on. He rode forward past Zuko, allowing him to jump on the back. They fled with the fifth rider in pursuit. He threw a bomb in front of them and pulled back as it exploded. Unbeknownst to him, they made it through the explosion intact and kept on riding. It's nice to see old friends, Iroh commented as they got away. Too bad you don't have any old friends that want to attack you, Zuko said. All they ever seemed to meet was people who wanted to either kill them or capture them. He contemplated that thought as it made sense to him. Old friends that don't want to attack me. He muttered to himself. Katara led the group through the desert. They were hot and thirsty. Team Asuma was a little better off, but they weren't usually the kind who lived in the desert. That was Shinobi who hailed from Suna. Sokka tried to use Momo as a shade, but Toph ran into him, knocking Momo off his head. Can't you watch where you're? He began to say, only to remember that she couldn't see well in the desert. No, she told him. Right, sorry. If I wasn't roasting here, I would find that funny, Choji stated. He had removed the metal plating from his clothes so that it wouldn't roast him any more than he already was. But he was still sweating like a stuck pig. Come on guys, we've gotta stick together, Katara told them. Sokka tried to pull himself from Toph. If I sweat any more, I don't think sticking together will be a problem. Toph finally got them separated by pushing him off, making him fall to the ground. Katara, can I have some water? She asked. Okay, but we've gotta try to conserve it. She looked over at Team Asuma. Do you guys want some? Ino fished out a canteen. We brought our own water, so we'll be fine. Katara nodded. She bent the water out of her pouch and then separated it into 4 small orbs, one each for Sokka, Toph, Momo, and Akila. They let the water go into their mouths and drank it. Didn't you use this on the swamp guy? Sokka asked as the water went down his throat. He was certain that she did. It does taste swampy, Toph admitted. I'm sorry, it's all we have, Katara told them. If they drank all their water now, they probably wouldn't make it. Ino, Choji said. Could I borrow your canteen? He sounded a little embarrassed when he spoke. What happened to yours? She asked. Wasn't it full? Yeah, about that. He lifted his canteen up and held it upside down. Not a single drop of water came out of it. You drank it all already. Come on, Ino, an Akamichi doesn't do well in the desert. I was thirsty, he tried to explain himself. Well, you're none getting any of mine, she retorted, putting her canteen away from his sight. Hey, look over there, Sokka said. Across from them was a cactus. Oh, thank Kami, Choji said. He rushed over to the cactus and sliced off a portion with a kunai. Choji, I wouldn't drink that, Asuma warned him. It was never a good idea to drink something like that. You'd have no idea what would happen. What's the harm, Asuma-sensei? He asked as he drank the water inside the cactus. Want one, Sokka? He offered the tribesman, holding up another piece of the cactus. Sokka took the offered portion and drank it while Choji and Momo had more than one serving of the cactus water. You guys should have some. Choji offered another portion of the cactus to the group. It's not that bad, actually, Sokka agreed, having finished one portion. I don't know, Katara said as she watched her brother reach for another piece. Choji's eyes suddenly dilated. You know you want the cactus juice, he told them, gesturing to the piece of cactus in his hand. It's free. Free cactus juice for everyone. Okay, that's it. You're done, Ino told him as she took the piece of cactus away from and spilled its contents onto the desert floor. Maybe she should have let him drink from her canteen. Sokka, are you okay? Katara asked him. He was just standing there, like nothing was happening. I think so. I only had one portion, he answered, dropping the full piece in his hand. He looked around, blinking his eyes a lot. His gaze finally settled on Toph. One question though, why is Toph on fire? I'm not, the blind earthbender told him. Above their heads, Momo was flying around in circles, going faster and faster until he suddenly did a dive bomb into the sand. Can I get some of that cactus? Katara picked up Momo. I don't think that's a good idea. Come on, we need to find again. They all started off before realizing Choji hadn't moved from where he stood. Asuma quickly grabbed him and started pulling him along. Sokka kept looking. Why are we underwater? He asked, his pupils dilated. All he could see was water everywhere. We're not underwater, Sokka, Katara told him. All she could see was a hot desert. Yes, we are. I can see fishes, Choji said, pointing off to the distance. He tried to get loose from Asuma's grip. Come back, fishes, I'm hungry and you are dinner. Choji, you need to calm down, Asuma told him, holding him back. But I want the fishes. Aang flew over the dunes of the desert, looking for his sky bison. He took out the bison whistle and blew. He saw nothing reacting. Appa, he called out. He landed on a dune and tried again. Appa. Again, nothing reacted. No, he whispered as a wave of sadness took over him. The sadness quickly turned into rage. No. He slammed his staff into the dune beneath him. He bent the air around as well, causing a huge cloud of sand to fly up. They crested a sand dune when they saw the giant cloud of sand, which was beginning to look like a mushroom. What is that? Katara asked. What? What is what? Toph asked, looking in the other direction. She had felt something blow past her, but that was it. Sokka was also facing the other way. I don't know, but I'm not going to look at it, he told her. If he looked, he was certain he would say something stupid. It's a giant mushroom, Choji said, excited. He wanted to go to the mushroom but was held back by his sensei. Let's keep moving, Katara told everyone. I hope Aang's okay, she said, mostly to herself. They hadn't seen the airbender since he left. Asuma dragged his student away. Come on, Choji, we have to go. No. Come back, mushroom. I love you. You are my one and only, the Akamichi cried as he grasped the air in the direction of the mushroom-shaped cloud. You declared your love to a non-existent shark 5 minutes ago. Ino told him, helping her sensei pull him away. What a drag, Shikamaru said as he joined in the dragging. Master Yu and Shin Fu had been hunting Toph for some time now. Her father had promised them an incredibly good reward if they brought her back, so they reluctantly worked together to find her. Their hunt had led them to the Misty Palms oasis. They started asking the residents if they had seen her. Yeah, a little barefoot blind girl and her friends passed through here a few days ago, a man told them. Did they give you any indication of where they were headed? Master Yu asked. Maybe you could give me a little incentive. The man rubbed his fingers together, giving the hint that he wanted money for the information. Are you suggesting that I break your fingers? Threatened Shin Fu. The man whipped his hand around his back. They went into the desert, he told the two of them hurriedly. Too bad there's almost no chance they survived. That's okay, 'cause she's wanted dead or alive. No, she's not. Master Yu argued as the man who gave them the information backed away. I'm certain her father wants her alive. Hey, look. Shin Fu noticed something on a nearby board. Fire Nation wanted posters. So, he wasn't sure where this was going. One of the posters was of Zuko and Iroh. Shin Fu turned and saw the same two men walking into the cantina. So, look who's here. They had been given the opportunity to make some easy cash. They continued without further incident. By now, the sun was setting, and the temperature was getting cooler. A shadow flew over them. When they looked up, they saw it was Aang. He landed behind them and stayed there. I'm sorry, Aang, Katara told him as she ran up to meet him. I know it's hard for you right now, but we need focus on getting out of here. She put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He shrugged it off. What's the difference? We won't survive without Appa. We all know it. I could say that I knew this would eventually happen and that I told you so, Sokka said to Aang and Katara, earning him a glare from the airbender. But considering the fact that I may not be able to follow the ensuring argument, I won't. Come on Aang, Katara told him. We can do this if we work together. Right, Toph? She asked the blind earthbender. As far as I can feel, we're trapped in a giant bowl of sand pudding, she answered. I got nothing. Sokka, any ideas on how to find Ba Sing Se? Asked Katara. If there was anyone who could come up with a plan, it would be her brother. I'll let you know when I can think straight again, he told her as he sat next to Aquila. He kept shaking his head slightly, like he was trying to get sand out of his ear. How about you guys? She asked Team Asuma. Do you think if we ask nicely, the circle birds will let me eat them? Choji asked, pointing to the sky. Shikamaru looked upwards. Those aren't birds, Choji, he told his friend. Those are. It's too troublesome to figure out what those are. Katara looked upwards to see what they were looking at. Circling above them were buzzard wasps, 4 of them. It was like they were just waiting for the group to throw in the towel, so they could feast. Then she looked at the group. Aang was sulking, Toph was almost falling asleep, Momo was on his back moving his paw in a circle, Sokka sat next to Aquila trying to clear his head and Team Asuma was trying to convince Choji that there wasn't a giant boar with a banner that said, "Please, Choji, I beg of you. Eat me," tied between its tusks on the next dune over. She gave an exasperated sigh. They weren't going to throw the towel in yet. We're getting out of this desert and we're going to do it together, she told them. Aang, get up, everyone, hold hands. They did as they were told. We can do this. We have to, she told them. They continued walking, this time by holding hands. Aquila walked alongside Sokka. Ino looked back at Shikamaru, who was at the end of the line. Shikamaru, what are you doing to Momo? She asked her teammate. In his free hand, Shikamaru held Momo by the tail, allowing him to flap his wings without flying away from the group. Keeping him entertained, he answered with a straight face. Momo looked like he was enjoying himself. They kept walking until the sun had almost set. They had also stopped holding hands. I think we should stop for the night, Katara finally said. When she said that, everyone pretty much collapsed. Is there any more water? Toph asked. She was thirsty and she wanted a drink. This is the last of it, the waterbender told her. Everyone can have a little drink. She bent the water out of her pouch and held it in the air. Momo leapt for the precious liquid, splattering all over the sand. Way to go, Momo, Sokka said, looking at the lemur. You've killed us all. No, he hasn't, Katara told her brother. She reached for the soggy sand and bent the remaining water out of it, saving some of it. Right, bending, forgot about that. He was starting to wonder if the cactus juice was really getting to him. Then he saw something that caught his attention. Katara handed the pouch to Toph so she could take a sip. Sokka, let me see the things you got from the library, she said, only to find he was staring off at a nearby sand dune. Sokka, you okay? Katara, I need you to hit me, he told her. She was caught off guard. What? I need you to hit me upside the head so I can stop seeing the Kyoshi warriors doing a group striptease. She didn't even hesitate, whacking him hard across the back of his head. He went face first into the sand. "Thank you," he said as he brought his head out of the sand. "You're welcome," she replied as she took the bag from his slumped shoulder. She sat down and took out one of the scrolls. "It doesn't matter," Aang told her dejectedly. "None of those will tell us where Appa is." He felt a swat on his own head. Looking to see who did it, he saw Sokka, who was having a moment of clarity, standing above him. "Listen up, Aang," he said. "I know that you and Appa have been through a lot, and I know you hate the fact that you can't find him. But face the facts, Appa is not our primary concern anymore. Getting out of here alive is. Stop moping and help us out." Aang gripped his staff and rose from where he was sitting. "That's enough." Asuma barked out, standing between them, stopping the fight before it even started. "Aang, Sokka is right, we need to worry about leaving this desert alive first. Sokka, remember that Aang lost his closest friend. You don't need to remind him of it every time you can." Aang walked away. "Whatever," he grumbled as he sat down a little further away from Sokka. "Look guys, this way we can find which way Ba Sing Se," Katara told them as she held a constellation map in her hands. "We can use the stars to guide us. That way we can travel at night when it's cool and rest during the day." She looked back and saw everyone was almost asleep. "Just try to get some sleep. We'll start again in a few hours." Zuko looked around the cantina and wasn't impressed by what he saw. "No one here is going to help us," he told Iroh. "These people just look like filthy wanderers." "So do we," Iroh pointed out. "That was the whole idea." Then he noticed something. "Ah, this is interesting." Zuko followed his uncle's line of sight until he was looking an old man at a pie show table. "I think I found our friend. You brought us here to gamble on pie show?" Zuko demanded in a hushed voice. He couldn't his uncle would do something like that at a time like this. Iroh stood up from the table. "I don't think this is a gamble." He walked over to the pie show table and Zuko followed. On the other side of the cantina, Shin Fu and Master Yu were watching their every move. "Let's take them now," Shin Fu said, rising from his chair. "If they caught them, it would be easy cash." Master Yu put a restraining hand on him. "This place is full of desperate characters. If they find out we're collecting a bounty, we may have to fight them just to keep our prize." "Patience," he told Shin Fu. The Earth Rumble host sat back down and continued to watch. "May I have this game?" Iroh asked the old man as he approached the table. "The guest has the first move," he answered. Iroh sat down and placed a tile in the middle of the board. "I see you favor the White Lotus Gambit," his opponent commented. "Not many still cling to the ancient ways." He made a gesture with his hands. "Those who do can always find a friend," Iroh replied, making the same gesture. "Then let us play." The two of them began the game. The only thing Zuko could do at this point was grab a chair and wait. The two players went back and forth, slowly at first but also gradually picking up the pace. As they played the game, Zuko realized that they were placing the tiles so that they made a larger design. The two players placed their last pieces down at the same time, completing the design. "Welcome brother," the old man said. "The White Lotus opens wide to those who know our secrets." "What are you old gasbags talking about?" Zuko finally asked them. They weren't making any sense, to him, at least. "I've always tried to tell you that Pie Show is more than just a game," Iroh told his nephew cryptically, fiddling with a tile between his fingers. Shin Fu got impatient. "I'm not waiting all night for these geezers to finish yapping," he declared as he stood up from his seat. Master Yu simply followed. "It's over." Shin Fu shouted at Zuko and Iroh as he made his towards them. "You two fugitives are coming with me." The old man got in his path. "I knew it," he said loudly. "You two are wanted criminals with a big bounty on your heads." Thanks to his time in Akawan, Zuko realized what the old man was doing and kept quiet. "You think you're going to capture them and collect all that gold?" the old man asked the two bounty hunters. "Gold?" asked someone. The attention of everyone in the cantina was now on Shin Fu and Master Yu. Maybe we shouldn't, Master Yu suggested to Shin Fu, who only smirked in answer. Sure enough, a brawl started up. While Shin Fu and Master Yu dominated the others, they didn't notice that the old man, Zuko, and Iroh had left the cantina. They had slept for some hours before Katara woke them up again. Come on, get up. She shook Sokka awake. We need to go. I'm up, he told her as he sat up. Aquila opened his eyes as he rose from where he slept next to Sokka. The both of them stood up shakily. Toph also sat up and smacked her lips. Yesterday my mouth tasted like mud, she said. Now it just tastes like sand. I never thought I'd miss the taste of mud so much. That was a weird thing all by itself. Speaking of mud, Choji said as Team Asuma woke up. Have you guys ever wondered what Tauntaun would taste like? Choji, if I were you, Asuma began, I'd never utter that phrase again. Those who try to eat the pig risk Shizune's, Tsunade's, or Kami forbid Tauntaun's displeasure and anger. That was a fate he wished on no one. Katara walked over to Aang. I'm awake, he told her as she was about to wake him. I couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Appa and where the bison might be. Well, we need to get moving if we want to get out of this sand pit, she said to him. Aang saw something flying past the full moon that looked almost like his sky bison. Appa! He cried in joy. Sokka looked up. I don't see Appa, he said before he narrowed his eyes at the moon. But why is Princess Yu trying to fish for stars? The moon is made of cheese, Choji declared. Can I have some? He asked his teammates, naked longing evident in his voice. No, Ino told him firmly. Everyone minus Choji looked more closely at it. It's just a cloud, Katara said before dropping her head. She immediately brought back up. Wait. A cloud? She took the pouch off her back and held out to Aang. Here, fly up and bend the water from the cloud into my pouch. She told him. He yanked the pouch out of her hands, opened his gilder, and took off. It took him 2 passes through the cloud to get all the water. He threw the pouch at Katara as he landed back on the dune. She investigated the pouch. Wow, there's hardly any in here. At that point, he lost his temper. I'm sorry, okay, he yelled. It's a desert kid, I did all I could. What's anyone else doing? What are you doing? He pointed his gilder staff at Katara. Trying to keep everyone together, she answered quietly. She opened the constellation map again. Let's just get moving. We need to head this direction. She knew that he was mad, but they had to get out of the desert first. They started walking again, until Toph tripped and fell down. Crud. I am so sick of not feeling where I'm going, she said as she rubbed foot. And what idiot buried a boat in the middle of the desert? That was probably one of the more stupid things someone could have done. There's a boat here because someone wanted to fish, Choji said with excitement. You see. I knew there were fishes out here. Let's find them, he told his teammates. Calm down, Choji, Asuma told him. A boat? Asked Katara as she went to check what Toph had hit. Believe me. I kick it hard enough to feel plenty of vibrations, the blind earthbender grumbled. Her foot was still stinging from the pain. Katara backed away so that Aang could step forward. He bent the air to blow away the sand covering the hidden object. When the sand cleared, it revealed a sand sailor. It's one of the gilders the sandbenders used. Katara climbed aboard the helm. And look, it's got a compass on it. I bet it can point us out of here. She tapped the compass to make sure it was working. Aang, you can bend a breeze so we can sail it. We're going make it. Sokka stared off into the distance. I could be hallucinating again, but I think Naruto is about 2 dunes behind us, he announced, getting everyone's attention. Asuma looked in Sokka's direction. I don't see anything. I think you're hallucinating. Okay, just making sure. They all climbed aboard and started off. After getting away from the cantina, Zuko and Iroh followed the old man in a building that was apparently a flower store. It is an honor to welcome such a high-ranking member of the Order of the White Lotus, the old man said, bowing his head before Iroh. Being a Grand Master, you must know so many secrets. The old man and Iroh walked to the back of the store with Zuko following them. Now that you've played Pai's show, are you gonna do some flower arranging? Or is someone in this club going to offer some real help? He asked the two men. He was failing to see the point in all this. You must forgive my nephew, Iroh told the old man. He is not an initiate and has little love for the cryptic arts. The old man knocked on the door leading into the back. The peephole opened halfway, revealing a man's face. Who knocks at the garden gate? He asked. One who has eaten the fruit and tasted its mysteries, Iroh answered. The door opened, Iroh and the old man walked through. Zuko followed, but the door was closed in his face. The peephole opened and Iroh looked at his nephew. I'm afraid it's members only. Wait out here, he told Zuko. The peephole closed. Zuko took a step back and waited, taking a sniff at a nearby flower. Doesn't smell too bad, he thought to himself. The sand sailor flew on through the desert. Aang was driving it via a continuous airstream at the sail. Katara looked at the compass. The needle on this compass doesn't seem to be pointing north according to my charts, she said as she double-checked the constellation map. Don't worry about it, Sokka as he sat behind her, holding Momo against the wind. Akela was sleeping next to him. Don't fight the journey's path, just go with it. He shook his head. Sorry, even I'm not sure what that meant. At least I'm better off than Choji. He pointed to Team Asuma, who were holding Choji down and telling him that there was not a barbecue restaurant out in the desert that was having an all-you-can-eat buffet. Katara looked back at where the sand sailor was going and saw a big rock formation. That's what the compass is pointing to. That giant rock, it must be the magnetic center of the desert. A rock? Asked Toph. Yes. Let's go. She wanted to feel solid earth beneath her feet again. Maybe we can find some water there. Katara suggested. They urgently needed more water. Maybe we can find some sandbenders, Aang said to himself. They rode towards the big rock. By the time they reached it, the sun rising. They climbed to the top to get a better view of the desert. Ah, finally, solid ground, Toph said as she fell to the ground and made a rock angel out of the ground. The top of the rock had tunnels leading inward. The group decided to head into one of the tunnels. The tunnel was covered in some form of yellow goo. Sokka took a deep breath. I think my head is starting to clear out the cactus juice, he said. I think so too, Choji agreed. And look. He picked up some of the yellow goo, eat it and then immediately spat it back out. Tastes like beef gone bad, he said before groaning. Oh, I feel woozy. You've hallucinating on cactus juice all day and then you just lick something you find stuck to the wall of a cave. Ino demanded angrily. I was hungry. You're an Akamichi. You're always hungry. Speaking of which, do you have any food I can eat? Toph walked down the cave with her hand on the wall. I don't think this is a normal cave. This was carved by something, she told them. Yeah, look at the shape, Aang agreed. He could see that the shape was not natural in design. There's something buzzing in here, something that's coming for us. Toph announced. They all saw what coming for them once she said those words. They all ran back out of the tunnel to avoid the buzzard wasps that were coming out of the tunnels in force. They were soon surrounded by the creatures. One came near Aang and he blew it back with a blast of air. One landed on a rock near Toph, who sent it flying by bending the rock upwards. Another one flew between Toph and Sokka, so Toph bent a rock up and threw it at where she thought the buzzard wasp was. It landed in front of Sokka, a little too close for comfort. What are you doing? That rock almost crushed me, he told her. Sorry. I can't tell where they are in the air, she replied. Another buzzard wasp flew past them. I got this one, he told her. He ran forward and swung his machete around wildly. Sokka, there's nothing there. Katara told him. He stopped swinging and looked around. He hadn't hit any buzzard wasps, just air. I guess my head's not as clear as I thought. You said it, Choji agreed as he rubbed his head. Ran into the wall? The tribesman asked him. He just nodded. We need to get out of here. I'm completely out of water to bend, Katara said. Everyone heard Momo give a surprised screech. They turned to see Momo in the clutch of a buzzard wasp. "Momo!" cried Aang as the buzzard wasp flew away. "I'm not losing anyone else out here." He ran to the ledge, opened his gilder staff and took off. "Come on, we're going down," Katara told everyone. They began to climb down the rock, but the buzzard wasps were following them. "Toph, shoot a rock right there," Katara told her, pointing in the direction she wanted. Toph bent a chunk of rock up in front of her. "Fire!" ordered the waterbender. She shot the rocks at the incoming buzzard wasp, sending it down to the ground. "Yeah, you got it," Sokka cheered. "She got it, right?" he asked Katara, not sure if he was hallucinating or not. "Yes," she answered. "Now let's move." They kept moving down the rock, still trying to avoid the buzzard wasps. Meanwhile, Aang flew after the buzzard wasp that held Momo. He flew downwards to get under the buzzard wasp. Once that was done, he flipped over, bent a stream of air at the creature, making it lose its grip on Momo. The flying lemur fell through the air but managed to recover. Aang wasn't satisfied by that alone. He landed on the sand and sent an air stream at the fleeing buzzard wasp. It hit the creature, sending crashing down into the sand. Aang glared at the fallen buzzard wasp and then walked away. Back at the rock, the group had almost made it to the bottom, but the buzzard wasps had been hounding them all the way down. "On your left," Katara told Toph. She responded by bending a chunk at a buzzard wasp. A buzzard wasp got close, but Asuma fought it off with his chakra blades. "I don't we'll be able to last much longer here," he warned. It was then, almost like someone heard him, the surrounding sand was upheaved into the air. It sent the buzzard wasps back into their caves. When the sand cleared, everyone saw that the ones who saved them were the sandbenders, several of them. Aang landed in front of the group. He had found who he was looking for. Zuko had drifted off into sleep. When the door to the back opened, he immediately moved into a firebending stance. "What's going on? Is the club meeting over?" he asked as he moved out of the stance. "Everything is taken care of," Iroh told him as he bowed to the old man, who bowed in return. "We're heading to Ba Sing Se." "Ba Sing Se," repeated Zuko. "Why would we go to the Earth Kingdom capital? That was probably the worst place to be in right now, especially if they weren't from the Earth Kingdom." "The city is filled with refugees," the old man explained. "No one will notice too more." Quote, "We can hide in plain sight there," Iroh clarified. "And it's the safest place in the world from the Fire Nation. Even I couldn't break through to the city." The door to the shop opened. "I have the passports for our guests," a young man said. "But there are two men out on the street, looking for them." Zuko and Iroh looked through the front door's peephole. They saw Shin Fu and Master Yu showing their wanted poster and asking people if they had seen them. "What are you doing in our land with a sandbender sailor?" the leader of the sandbenders demanded of the group. "From the looks of it, you stole it from the Hami tribe." Sokka felt Aquila tense up by his side. "What's the matter, Aquila?" he asked in a whisper. The wolf looked at him, looked back at the sandbenders and then pawed his nose while his tail drooped. The tribesman got the message immediately. "You mean it was one of them?" Aquila nodded in acknowledgement. "We found the sailor abandoned in the desert. We're traveling with the Avatar," Katara explained as she gestured towards Aang. The leader's eyes widened slightly. He knew who that was. "Our bison was stolen, and we have to get to Ba Sing Se." "You dare accuse our people of theft while you ride in on a stolen sand sailor?" a younger sandbender demanded. Toph paid closer attention. She had heard that voice before somewhere. "Quiet, Gashian," barked the sandbender leader. "No one accused our people of anything. If what they say is true, we must give them hospitality." That was the law that every sandbender tribe held to. No one ever broke the law of hospitality. "Sorry, Father," Gashian apologized. He knew the law as well. Toph's eyes widened at the voice. "I recognize the son's voice," she whispered to Katara. "He's the one that stole Appa." "Are you sure?" Katara asked. They had to be careful and not accuse the wrong person. "I never forget a voice." However, the two of them had forgotten that Aang was right behind them and could hear every bit of the hushed conversation. He marched forward with angry steps. "You stole Appa," he accused the son, pointing his staff at him. "Where is he? What did you do to him?" "They're lying. They're the thieves," Gashian protested, trying to deflect the blame. Aang responded by swinging his staff at one of the sand sailors, bending an air stream at it and destroying it. "Where is my bison?" he demanded. The door to the flower store opened and the young man walked out, pulling a cart with 2 big pots of flowers. As he walked away, Shinfu and Master Yu walked towards the store. Shinfu opened the door loudly, slamming it against the wall and making a pot of flowers hanging from the ceiling crashed to the floor. "Hey, you, where are these men?" he demanded of a man who was tending to the flowers. "I got a tip that they're in your shop." "As you can see, no one is here but us," the man replied, spreading his arms to emphasize the point. "We know all about your secret back room," Master Yu told him. "Kick it down," he ordered Shinfu. "Hey! That room is for flowers only," the man protested as Shinfu ran past him and kicked down the door, revealing an empty room. The only thing that was in the room was a Pai Sho tile, specifically the White Lotus tile. "Some unlucky soul has an incomplete Pai Sho set," Master Yu stated as he picked up the tile, missing the actual point of the tile. Shinfu angrily knocked the tile out of his hands. "Let's go back to finding the girl," he told Master Yu. Outside the village, the young man was still pulling the cart with the 2 large flower pots. The flowers were lifted to reveal both Iroh and Zuko hiding in the pots. They shared a look and then went back down, placing the flowers back over their heads. "You tell me where he is now," Aang told Gashian and destroyed another sand sailor via airbending to emphasize his point. He was mad and he wanted his bison back. "What did you do?" the sandbender leader asked his son. It wasn't me," he protested. "You said to put a muzzle on him," Toph announced, killing any defense he had. "You muzzled Appa," Aang roared. At this point, his anger grew too much, and he went into the avatar state. He destroyed another sand sailor, and it was more violent this time. "I'm sorry," Gashian apologized. "I didn't know it belonged to the avatar." "How many sky bison are left, you baka?" shouted Ino. "There was only one left, it wasn't hard. Tell me where Appa is," Aang demanded, his voice mixing with those of the previous avatars, making it sound almost demonic. "I traded him to some merchants. He's probably in Ba Sing Se by now. They were going to sell him there." Aang said nothing. He just stared at them, making them nervous. "Please, we'll escort you out of the desert. We'll help however we can," Gashian promised. If he didn't try to appease the angry avatar, he and his tribe might end up dead. But this only seemed to make Aang even angrier, as the sand around him began to get swept up by the wind forming around him. "You need to move, now," Asuma ordered. They all started running away from Aang, who was enveloped in a dome of air and lifted off his feet. He was also causing a sandstorm. Katara tried to reach for Aang but was pulled away from him by Sokka. "Get out of here, Katara," he told her in a calm voice. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded. "I'm doing the job I was given. Now run," he ordered. As she moved away, he reached for Aang's arm. "Aang, stop it," he told his friend, trying to get through to him. Aang simply moved a hand, and he was pushed back. The avatar was about to lash out against the sandbenders when Sokka grabbed his arm, yanked him down, and punched him in the face. "I said stop it," he yelled, his eyes turning pitch black as he cut the link between Aang and the avatar state. Aang returned to normal as he fell to the ground. As he did, tears welled up in his eyes. Seeing the tears, Katara ran over to him and hugged him. "I'm sorry, Aang. I'm so sorry," she whispered. He opened his eyes. "It's not your fault, Katara," he told her. They broke the hug and stood back up. Aang turned to face the sandbender leader. "Sorry about breaking the sand sailors. You have nothing to apologize for, Avatar," the leader said, looking at his son with a disapproving look. "There are additional sand sailors nearby. We will be fine." We shall head towards them and then escort you out of the desert. Hold on, Sokka said, getting everyone's attention. There's one more issue we have with your tribe. And what is that? He looked to the wolf standing next to him. Who was it, Aquila? He asked. Aquila paced slowly towards the sandbenders. He began to sniff each one of them, checking their scent. What is the meaning of this? The leader asked. Sokka, what are you doing? Aang asked as well. Both he and the leader had no idea what was going on. You'll see, he answered shortly, keeping his gaze on the wolf. Aquila kept sniffing, going to each sandbender. Finally, he found the scent of the one who wounded him. He looked up, bared his teeth, and growled at the sandbender leader's son, Gashian. He looked down at the growling wolf. What are you growling at me for, you stupid cur? He asked. Hearing movement on the sand, he looked up just in time for Sokka to slug him in the face, breaking his nose in the process. He fell to the ground and the tribesman kicked him repeatedly, his foot hitting harder and harder. Gashian tried to curl into a ball to avoid more of the pain, and it only worked marginally. Please, Saint, stop, he croaked out. You want me to stop, is that? Sokka asked. He stopped the kicking and grabbed Gashian by the collar. If you ever harm Aquila again, your father won't have enough pieces of you to bury, he growled to the sandbender's face. To prove his point, he drew his machete and cut Gashian's chest, making it bleed badly. He threw the sandbender back to the ground and looked at his father. You might as well take care of him, he said. He and Aquila walked back to their own group. No one said a word after what they had seen. That was whole other side of Sokka they never would have thought existed. All right, I'm done here, Naruto said as he put the last book in place. He had to admit, the whole process went a lot faster when he had help. But we're not done, Professor Zay said as he looked at the rest of the empty shelves. There are still so many books that need to be replaced. It was saddening to see so many empty shelves. You don't think I know that? He asked the professor. Trust me, I've been doing this whenever I can for the past 3 years and I know for a fact it will be a long time until this section will be completely restored. He just hoped that it would be finished before he died. How did you find the library in the first place? Zay asked him as they walked back to the center of the library. By accident, the blonde admitted. I got caught in a sandstorm 3 years ago. I found the tower and climbed inside. That's when I met the owl. He was generous to allow me to wait out the storm in the library. I walked around the place, looking at all the books and eventually saw the destroyed Fire Nation section. When the sandstorm eventually died and I could leave, I made the owl a deal. I could come back as many times as I can to restore the Fire Nation section of the library. He took the deal on the spot. That's incredible. He never would have thought to do that. He shrugged. Not really. The bird was moping around before I made him the offer. That is something I never really want to see again. It's too weird. Why is that? The professor asked as they walked down the halls, the sound of their feet echoing all around them. When he gets depressed or mopes around, he goes to the baby section of the library and reads nursery rhymes. If he's really depressed, he starts singing them out loud, Naruto told him, silently suppressing a shudder at the memory. That had been a long 3 hours. Quote ellipsis. You're right, that is weird, Zay agreed. He made a silent note to stay out of Wan Shitong's way when he got like that. They reached the bridge directly below the tower. Time for me to go, Naruto said, looked over at Zay. Now do you remember what I told you about living here? He asked the professor. He nodded. Make sure that Wan Shitong doesn't mistake me for food. Always keep treats on hand for the knowledge seekers. And make sure that Wan Shitong eats occasionally, he recited, counting the things on his hands. Did I miss anything? That's pretty much it. I'll see ya when I come back, Zay, he said before literally jumping all the way up to the inside of the tower and then ran up it, leaving behind a stunned Zay. He soon leapt out of the window and landed in the Siwang Desert. Information went through his head almost as soon as he landed. It seems that the Avatar's group has received help from the Sandbenders, he mused. Indeed, The QB agreed as he looked through the information as well. Sokka managed to see your clone. It's a good thing he was hallucinating beforehand. Otherwise, the rest might have seen it. That's true. Right now, the second clone was tracking them. They appear to be heading for Ba Sing Se. That made sense. They had been in the library and found information for the war. There was no doubt that they would try to get to the center of the Earth Kingdom. The fox grinned. Kit, do you remember lesson number 5? Of course, I do. When you hear opportunity knocking, open the door, he recited. That was an important lesson and it always paid to pay attention to it. They just gave you a very good opportunity. He caught the fox's drift and grinned as well. Yes, they did. It also gives me a chance to refine an old jutsu of mine. He was beginning to look forward to this idea. It also helped that he had been in Ba Sing Se before and knew exactly what to do. The QB looked through his Jinchuriki's mind and saw what he was planning. You are evil, Kit. I approve. They won't see this coming until it's too late, he declared with an evil grin. Then it's best to get started, isn't it? He quickly created another clone. Go find the princess and tell her what's going to happen. The clone nodded in acknowledgement. The two of them ran at top speed through the desert, inadvertently causing a sandstorm between them. End. Author's note. Thank you for all the reviews you've sent me. Now, I know I changed Sokka up, but I needed him to be serious when I needed him to be. Plus, I thought it would funnier if he was lightly intoxicated. A heavily intoxicated Choji was much more fun to me. What Naruto has planned for Team Avatar will eventually be revealed. Bodyguard of Azula. Location: Earth Kingdom. Aang and his group managed to get out of the Siwang Desert with the help of the Sandbender tribe, even though most of them stayed away from Sokka after what happened to Gashian. Once they were out of the desert, they started to make their way towards Ba Sing Se. They took a break near the waterfall, while Sokka was looking over a map he'd taken from Wan Shitong's library while Aquila took a nap next to him. The wolf had recovered from his injuries from the desert. Toph sat near the water's edge, splashing her feet. Aang was floating in the water. He dived under the water and bent it to freeze himself in a block of ice to float better, leaving his head free. Shikamaru was lying on his back, watching clouds. Asuma and Ino were double-checking the supplies and Choji was trying to fish. As for Katara, she was high on a ledge over the pool of water. She yelled out, "Waterbending bomb," before jumping off the ledge and landing in the water. The reason she said, "waterbending," was because of the large amount of water that splashed down on the others. Team Asuma got clear of the splash zone. Aang landed back on the bank, breaking the ice covering him. Toph stayed where she was and Sokka covered the map he was looking at from the water while Aquila woke up with a surprised yelp. While the others laughed, Sokka was annoyed. Sure, he grumbled as he held the map up, letting the water drip out. 5,000-year-old map from the Spirit Library, just splash some water on them. Katara got out of the water. Sorry, she apologized before bending the water out of the map, drying it. Aquila got up from where he was sleeping, padded over to where Katara was standing and shook his fur dry in front of her. Stop that, Aquila. If you don't want that to happen, don't get the wolf wet, Choji said. Or hit him with cold water, Shikamaru continued. It's a troublesome way to wake up. Speaking from experience, Shikamaru. Ino asked innocently. Yes, he answered shortly. He wasn't going to go there, not with her around. So, did you figure out what route we're going to take? Aang asked as they huddled up around Sokka. Okay, he started. We just got out of the desert, so we must be around here. He pointed to a spot on the map. And we need to go to Ba Sing Se, which is here. He pointed to the city, which was visible on the map. It looks like the only passage connecting the south to the north is this sliver of land called the Serpent's Pass. You're sure that the best way to go? Toph asked him. She couldn't see the map, but the name itself was foreboding. It's the only way, he replied. I mean, it's not like we have Appa to fly us there. Shush up about Appa, Katara whispered to him. Can't you at least try to be sensitive? The two of them looked at Aang. Ever since his temper tantrum, In the desert, they had tried to be careful around him, like he was damaged goods. Katara, it's okay, the air nomad told her. I know I was upset about losing Appa before, but I just want to focus on getting to Ba Sing Se and telling the Earth King about the solar eclipse. Oh, well okay, she answered, unsure if he meant what he said. I'm glad you're doing better. Just leave him alone, Katara, Ino told her. He'll take care of it when he wants to. It was better to let him sort it out on his own. Then to Ba Sing Se we go, Sokka declared, rolling up the map and standing up. No more distractions. Hello there, fellow refugees, a voice called out. Behind the group stood a man and two women, one of which was pregnant. Sokka just scowled at them. How troublesome, a distraction, Shikamaru said in a very dry voice. Knock it off, Shikamaru. Ino berated her teammate. Introductions were soon made. The man's name was Ton and he was traveling with his sister and pregnant wife. So, are you guys heading to Ba Sing Se too? Aang asked them. Sure are, Ton answered. We're trying to get there before my wife, Ying, has her baby. He rubbed Ying's swollen belly. Great, we can travel through the Serpent's Pass together, Katara said. Ton, his sister and his wife flinched. The Serpent's Pass? Asked Ying. Only the truly desperate take that deadly route. Deadly route, Toph repeated before hitting Sokka in the arm. Great pick, Sokka. Well, we are desperate, Sokka told her, rubbing his shoulder. How else were they going to get to Ba Sing Se? He didn't see anything else on the map that got them there. You should come with us to Full Moon Bay, Ton suggested. Ferries take refugees across the lake. It's the fastest way to Ba Sing Se. And it's hidden, so the Fire Nation can't find it, Ying supplied. Peaceful ferry ride or deadly pass? Katara asked with obvious sarcasm, looking pointedly at her brother. Shut up, Katara, Sokka told her. How was I supposed to know that there was a harbor there? Aside from that, they all agreed to go to Full Moon Bay. They managed to make there without any harm and soon found the tunnel that led into the harbor. Katara was shocked at what she saw. I can't believe how many people's lives have been uprooted by the Fire Nation. She watched a mother feed food to her baby, who didn't like it and cried in protest. We're all looking for a bit of life, safe, behind the walls of Ba Sing Se, Ton told her. But it didn't change the fact that what they were was quite basically a slum. Even if they weren't in the city yet, it was still a slum. One of the ferries behind the harbor wall sailed out onto the lake, traveling towards the city. On that same ferry was a dragon who hailed from the west and a dragon that had been scarred by his own father. Who would have thought after all these years, I'd return to the scene of my greatest military disgrace, as a tourist? Iroh said solemnly before putting on a hat with a flower in it, trying to lighten the mood. It didn't work. Look around, Zuko told him. We're not tourists, we're refugees. He picked up a bowl of food which consisted of gruel and chunks of something, drank a little bit and spat it back out. I'm sick of eating rotten food, sleeping in the dirt. I'm tired of living like this. Aren't we all? A nearby voice asked. Turning their heads, the two of them saw that the voice belonged to a dark-haired teenager chewing a piece of wheat. My name's Jet, he introduced himself. And these are my freedom fighters, Smellerby and Longshot. Hey, Smellerby greeted. Longshot just nodded. Zuko looked back out at the water. Hello, he said. They were trying to blend in. That meant keeping conversations and interactions with other people to a minimum. Jet walked closer. Here's the deal, he began. I hear the captain's eating like a king while us refugees have to feed of his scraps. Doesn't seem fair, does it? What sort of king is he eating like? Iroh asked. The fat, happy kind, he answered, making Iroh start to drool. You wanna help us liberate some food? He asked Zuko. Zuko stared into the bowl of food in front of him. It was either blending in, or eating bad food. Making his choice, he threw the bowl into the water. I'm in, he told Jet, who smirked in reply. I told you already, the passport attendant told a merchant in front of her. No vegetables on the ferry. One cabbage slug could destroy the entire ecosystem of Ba Sing Se. Security, she called out. A nearby security platypus bear destroyed the cart holding the vegetables. My cabbages, screamed out the merchant, who then had to be carried away by security guards. Next, the attendant called out. Aang stepped forward. 8 tickets for the ferry for Ba Sing Se please, he told her. Passports? She asked, sounding like she already wanted him gone. No one told us we had to have passports. He would have thought they could go right in. Don't you know who this is? Sokka asked her. He's the Avatar. The attendant scoffed. I see 50 avatars a day, and by the way, not the very impressive costume. She pointed to a group of people who were dressed as Aang being watched by security. Besides, no animals allowed. She said when she saw Momo and Aquila. Do I need to call security? They looked at the platypus bear, which chomped down on a cabbage to emphasize the point. That won't be necessary, Aang told her. Next, she barked out. Toph walked to the attendant's stand. I'll take care of this, she told Aang. My name is Toph Baifong and I'll need 8 tickets, she told the attendant, showing her passport. Ah, the golden seal of the flying boar, the attendant gushed as she looked at the passport. It is my pleasure to help anyone of the Baifong family. She bowed her head to Blind Earthbender. It is your pleasure, Toph told her pointedly. As you can see, I am blind, and these 7 imbeciles are my valets. She gestured to the rest of the group, who smiled and waved. But, the monkey, the attendant tried to object. Is my seeing eye lemur. And the wolf. Has been trained to alert us at night should anyone try to kidnap Lady Toph, Sokka told her. He's completely docile, provided you don't try to take Lady Toph. He looked at her with a suspicious look. You weren't planning on taking Lady Toph, were you? On cue, Aquila began to growl at the attendant. That's enough, Aquila. She's not going to kidnap me, Toph told the wolf. He stopped growling, going along with the act. Well, normally it's only 1 ticket per passport, the attendant began. But this document is so official. I guess it's worth 8 tickets. She stamped 8 tickets. Thank you very much, Toph said, taking the tickets and walking away. The rest of the group followed. Aquila barked once loudly. Yes indeed, Aquila. The attendant is a suck-up, Sokka said loudly, letting the whole line hear him. It loosened the tension a little bit by making the line laugh. The attendant scowled, but he didn't care. What he did care about was when someone grabbed by the back of his shirt and pulled him around. Tickets and passports please, a guardwoman demanded. Is there a problem? He asked cautiously. He didn't think his comment was too out of line. Yeah, I got a problem with you, she told him. I've seen your type before. Probably sarcastic, think you're hilarious, and let me guess, you're traveling with the Avatar. He looked at her closely. She seemed familiar for some reason. Do I know you? His shirt was grabbed again. You don't remember? The guard demanded. Maybe you remember this. She kissed him on the cheek. Quote ellipsis. Didn't see that coming, Shikamaru commented. Me neither, Ino agreed. Sokka, on the other hand, brightened up and said, Suki, before hugging her with a big grin on his face. He hadn't recognized the Kyoshi warrior without her gear and makeup on. She broke the hug. Sokka, it's good to see you, she told him with a smile on her face. Hold up, I think some of us need an introduction here, Toph said. Personally, she was at a loss and she didn't like that. She wanted some information quickly. Right, sorry about that, Sokka replied, looking at the rest of the group. Guys, this is Suki. She's the leader of the Kyoshi warriors. Suki, this is Toph Baifong, Aang's earthbending teacher. Nice to meet you, Suki greeted the blind earthbender. This is Asuma Sarutobi, Choji Akamichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Shikamaru Nara, he introduced Team Asuma. They were hired to protect us. Nice to meet you, Asuma said. Hey, Shikamaru said lazily. It's nice to meet you, Suki, Ino said. Kyoshi warriors, isn't that the group you said you saw in the desert doing a Choji didn't finish what he was saying due to the fact Asuma covered his mouth to stop him from talking. Of all the things you could have said, you went with that. Sokka demanded. Why would the Akamichi say something like that? What were we doing, Sokka? Suki asked in an innocent, dangerous voice. Something that I'll only tell you when I'm not sober, he told her. He was certain that he wouldn't want to remember what came next. He heard a woof and saw that Aquila was giving him a pointed look. Sorry. Suki, this is Aquila. The wolf padded forward and started to sniff her thoroughly, going all around her. Once he was done, he went back to Sokka's side and nodded. What just happened? Suki asked him. He approves of you. Realizing the fact that they couldn't talk in the open, Suki led them a place where they could do so in peace. You look so different without your makeup, Katara told her. And the new outfit. The waterbender looked at the uniform she was wearing. It was completely different. That crabby lady makes all the security guards wear them, she explained. And look at you, sleeveless guy, she said to Sokka, looking him over. Been working out. I'll grab a tree branch and do a few pull-ups now and then. Nothing major, he told her while stretching, showing off without shame. Are the other Kyoshi warriors around? Aang asked her. It made sense to him. If she was here, the others must be too. Yeah, she answered. After you left Kyoshi, we wanted to find a way to help people. We ended up escorting some refugees and we've been here ever since. Momo jumped onto the edge of the wall, making Suki giggle. Hi, Momo, good to see you too. She scratched his ear. So why are you guys getting tickets for the ferry? Wouldn't you just fly across on Appa? Everyone got a little downcast when they thought of the sky bison. Appa's missing, Katara told her. We hope to find him in Ba Sing Se. The information they got from the Sandbenders was all they had to go on. I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you doing okay? She asked Aang. He looked at her and then at the rest of the group. They all had a look of concern on their faces. I'm doing fine, he told them, trying to reassure them. Would everybody stop worrying about me? Avatar Aang called out Ying from below, getting his attention. You have to help us. Someone took all our belongings. Our passports, our tickets, everything's gone. I'll talk to the lady for you, he told them. It didn't go according to plan. No passports, no tickets, the passport attendant told him, stamping his forehead. But's she pregnant and all of their stuff was stolen. You have to make an exception, Aang protested. No exceptions, she yelled. If I just gave away tickets willy-nilly to anyone, there would be no more order. And you know what that means. No more civilization. Shut up, you cranky bitch, a voice cried out. The line cleared away to reveal a teenage girl around Shikamaru, Ino and Choji's age. She had brown eyes and short black hair. She wore a dark green shirt and black shorts. The funny thing was that what she wore didn't hide her ample assets. It highlighted them as well as her legs. If you did what you preached, I would have been in Ba Sing Se already. You damn well knew that was my passport that guy gave you. It had my name on it. All the guy had to do was give you a little incentive to convince you that was his passport and have security detain me. So don't you dare preach about order, you spirit's damned hypocrite, she yelled out for the entire harbor to hear. Security, bellowed the attendant. Detain that girl. The security men moved to grab her. You'll have to catch me first, she said before running away. Aang turned his attention back to the attendant. Look, what if we gave them our tickets? HH suggested to the attendant. He was trying to be reasonable. But she was being stubborn. No. Next, she yelled out, spittle hitting Aang in the face. He walked away back to Ton and his family, wiping the spit and ink from his face. Don't worry, you'll get to the city safely, he told them. I'll lead you through the Serpent's Pass. Of course, we're going to go through there, Shikamaru drawled. Why would things be easy for once? Sokka groaned. Knew it, I just knew it. They had to get rid of their tickets first and Sokka knew just the way to do it. They walked up to the front of the attendant's stand, held out the tickets, and yelled out, tickets. Free tickets here. It caused a stampede, and the attendant was left with the chaos which was the plan. All right, that lady got what she deserved, the tribesmen cheered as they walked away. Time to head for the Serpent's Pass then, Asuma said as they neared the exit. I'm coming too, Suki called out. She ran towards them in full Kyoshi warrior gear and makeup. Sokka looked back at her with some surprise on his face. Are you sure that's a good idea? Sokka, I thought you'd want me to come, she replied. I do, it's just. Thoughts of you came to his mind. He could still see her, mere moments before she gave up her life to become the moon. Just what? The Kyoshi warrior demanded. Nothing, I'm glad you're coming, he told her, pushing you away from his current thoughts. She joined the group while he just watched her with a worried look. He felt a weight press against his side. Looking down, he saw Aquila giving him a look. I'm worried, that's all, he told the wolf before walking to catch up with the group. They were outside the tunnel that led into the harbor when they heard a voice yell, "Hey! Wait up!" Coming out of the tunnel was the same girl who had yelled at the passport attendant. Glad I caught up with you guys, she said. What do you want? Asuma asked, instantly on his guard. He saw, out of the corner of his eye, that his team had done the same. You guys are going through the Serpent's Pass, right? She asked them. Yeah, that's right, Ino answered. She grinned. Great, then I'm coming with you. Her declaration threw some of the people there for a loop. But the shinobi stayed cautious. What makes you say that? Choji asked. I've been trying to get into Ba Sing Se for over 2 months now, she told them. If there's a chance of getting to that city, I'll take it. How convenient, Sokka muttered. A stranger wants to join us. The girl looked at him. You don't trust me, do you? She asked him. Sokka, we don't need your paranoia now. Katara hissed at him with a frown on her face. Sorry, my brother gets like that, she apologized. It's not his fault, you guys don't know me, the girl told her. But still, I'm going with you guys. We don't need excess baggage, Aang said, surprising everyone there. He's usually the first one to help people. So, you're not coming with. Whatever he was going to say next disappeared when she was suddenly behind him with an arm around his neck, slightly choking him. If you're implying that I can't hold my own in a fight, she whispered in his ear. I think I'll be fine. Is that okay, you self-important little brat? All right, that's enough, Asuma said, taking control of the situation before it got any worse. You can come along. That was the plan. She let go of Aang. Sorry about that, I wanted to make my point, she apologized to the air nomad. He didn't say anything in reply. Is there something we can call you? Or should we just stick to troublesome woman? Shikamaru asked her. Oh right, knew I forgot something, she said with a small blush on her face. My name is Shuyi. Is there anything else? Yes, I have a question, Ino said as she stared at the girl. What exactly do you eat? Huh? What do you mean? They're huge. The kunoichi pointed to her breasts. She couldn't get that size if she tried. Her face blushed fast. Don't stare at them, she cried, covering them as best she could. It's bothering me. She didn't like when people did that. Wow, a girl who's insecure about her breasts being that big, the guys in the group, except Aang, thought to themselves. Sorry, Ino instantly apologized. She didn't mean to make the girl feel uncomfortable. It's okay, Shuyi told her, still trying to hide them. Just don't stare at them like that. Back in my village, the other girls started to make fun of me when they got bigger. Anyway, we'd better get going, Asuma announced. The girl was coming, and they had already agreed. So, they might as well get moving. They made their way to the Serpent's Pass, which took them surprisingly little time. This is the Serpent's Pass? Sokka asked as he looked at the beginning of the trail. I thought it would be windier. You know, like a serpent. I guess they misnamed it. Quote. Try to think vertically instead of horizontally, Shikamaru suggested. He tried doing that. Sorry, still not seeing it. All he saw was a very tall, very thin pathway. Ying noticed something on a nearby post. "Look at this writing, how awful," she said as she read what was there. "What does it say?" Toph asked. She wasn't even looking in the direction of the writing, but she was curious all the same. Katara looked at the writing. "It says, abandon hope," she read aloud for all to hear. "How can we abandon hope? It's all we have," Ying asked. It was the only thing that kept them going to get to Ba Sing Se. "I don't know," Aang said. He had been taught differently. The monks used to say that hope is just a distraction. So maybe we do need to abandon it. Katara was about to say something but Shu Yi cut her off. "If that's the case, then your monk friends were probably among the stupidest people in this world," she said. Aang gripped his staff tightly. "What did you just say?" he asked her, looking at her but not moving from where he stood. No one insulted the monks in front of him. "You heard me," she replied, completely calm and not letting anything show. "But right now, we just have to keep moving." She started to walk onto the trail of the Serpent's Pass. The group was silent for a few minutes. "We might as well follow her," Choji said. Everyone else agreed with what he said and followed the girl. They had to be careful when traveling across the Serpent's Pass. The part they were on now was just a thin path against a wall of rock. "The Fire Nation controls the Western Lake," Suki explained when they saw a Fire Nation ship on the water. "Rumor has it they're working on something big on the other side and they don't want anyone to find out what it is." Aang gave the nearby ship a glance but kept on walking. Everyone else followed him until the edge of the path beneath Tong gave away, making him begin to fall towards the water. Toph bent a slab of rock to jut out so that he could land safely. She then bent the rock to send him back onto the path. "I'm okay," he said, reassuring his family. But the falling rock alerted the Fire Nation ship. "They spotted us," Sokka called out as the ship began to sling fireballs at them. "Let's go. Let's go." Aang leapt off the path to meet the fireball head-on. With a swing of his staff and some airbending, he sent it flying back into the ship's smokestacks, destroying them completely. But they could still sling fireballs. Another one was fired and hit the side of the cliff above them, causing rocks to start to fall. They were heading straight for Suki until Sokka pushed her out of the way. They were about to hit him when Toph bent the cliffside to jut out at an angle, allowing the rocks to roll off into the water. "Suki, are you okay?" Sokka demanded as he helped her stand up. "You have to be more careful. Come on." He led her down the path, leaving Toph standing alone with Momo. "Thanks for saving my life, Toph." "Hey, no problem Sokka," she muttered to herself before joining the run. Aang joined them as the Fire Nation just sat in the water. They ran on for a little more time before finally stopping to catch their breath. "I think we're out of the danger zone," Asuma said looking back. The Fire Nation ship had been damaged and wasn't pursuing them. "We need to keep moving," Aang said, looking ahead. "We figured, Mr. Moody," Shu Yi said. "You go on ahead, we will follow." He just glared at her and started walking away. The group followed as Katara walked alongside Shu Yi. "Why do you keep insulting him like that?" she asked. "Simple, because I can," Shu Yi answered with a shrug, like it was the simplest thing out there. "But he's the Avatar." That fact alone should have commanded respect from everyone who knew what that meant. "So, it doesn't matter. He's just another kid who thinks he's hot stuff. Besides, if he is the Avatar, he should have manned up 100 years ago. But he ran. So, I think I can insult him all I want and there's nothing you can do about it." She walked up the group, leaving Katara alone. They kept on walking until the sun was setting. By then they had found a place where they could sleep for the night, so they decided to make camp. Sokka saw that Suki was setting up near the edge. "Suki, you shouldn't sleep there," he told her. "Who knows how stable this ledge is? It could give way at any moment." He grabbed her gear and carried it away. "Sokka, I'm fine. Stop worrying," she told him. You're right, he told her as he laid out her gear. "You're perfectly capable of taking care of yourself." Suki began to sit down. "Wait," he barked out, leaping in front of her. Oh, never mind, I thought I saw a spider. But you're fine. He patted her shoulder, making her give him a flat stare. Aquila had to restrain the urge to not bite him in the ass. Zuko, Jet and Smellerbee went the staircase to the third level of the ferry. Waiting for the guard to pass, they made their way to the storeroom. Smellerbee was on lookout while Zuko and Jet went for the door. Ramming an end of one of his hook swords into the lock, Jet was able to open the door. After making sure there weren't any guards, the two quickly got to work. Jet cut the dead animals from their strings and bagged them while Zuko used his swords to stack and tie up bowls that were filled with food before bagging them as well. "Guards coming," Smellerbee called out in a hushed voice. They got out of the storeroom, closing the door behind them, and ran to the railing. 2 levels below, Longshot was waiting. He fired off an arrow with a rope attached. It hit the railing, allowing Zuko, Jet and Smellerbee zip down the line with the goods intact. Longshot pulled and the arrow broke away from the railing, letting it fall down just as a guard went by. The 4 of them walked away, making sure no one saw them with the food. Aang stood alone, watching the water below him. Katara walked up behind him. "You know, it's okay to miss Appa," she told him. He said nothing. He just kept looking out to the water. "What's going on with you? In the desert, all you cared about was finding Appa, and now it's like you don't care about him at all." "You saw what I did out there," he answered. "I was so angry at losing Appa, I couldn't control myself. I hated feeling like that." The monks would have looked at him with disappointment in their eyes if they had seen what had happened with the sandbenders. "But now you're not letting yourself feel anything," she protested. "I know sometimes it hurts more to hope and it hurts more to care. But you have to promise me that you won't stop caring." She opened her arms wide. "Come on, you need a hug." He simply turned and bowed to her. "Thank you for your concern, Katara," he said before walking away. Katara was downcast by what he had said and how he treated her. "I thought I told you to leave him alone and let him figure it out," Ino said behind her. She turned around and saw both Ino and Shu Yi. "I just wanted to help," she tried to explain. It was in her nature, couldn't they see that? "Katara, the best way you can help him is to let him deal with it," Ino told her. "You trying to help will only hinder him in the long run. Or you could just hit him upside the head and tell him to grow up," Shu Yi suggested. Katara glared at the girl. "What would you know about how Aang feels? I don't. It gives me an unbiased look at him." Her voice filled itself with scorn as she spoke. "In my opinion, he needs to be kicked in the ass rather than have a nice hug. And you think you're the one to do it? Nope, I'll just insult him until he's better." She grinned. "Face the facts, princess, not everything can be fixed with a hug and someone saying that everything will be alright or that they're sorry. If that were true, this war wouldn't have dragged on for this long. Everyone is hoping that the Avatar will stop the Fire Nation and bring balance back to the world." She scoffed. "If Little Miss Arrowhead keeps acting like that, we're screwed." "You don't believe in him?" Katara asked, astounded by what she was hearing. "You don't think he can stop the war? It's been going for over a century now and so far, he hasn't done a damn thing to stop it," she replied easily enough. "Well, what about you? Do you have a plan to stop the Fire Lord? Did your parents train you in the ways of the warrior so you could help save the world? No, you're just here because your village got burned to the ground and you hope to find safety in Ba Sing Se," the waterbender yelled at her. "You're going too far, Katara," Ino warned her. Shu Yi's grin disappeared, and she looked like she was desperately trying to make sure she wouldn't beat Katara into the ground right then and there. "For the record, princess, my village hasn't been burned to the ground, they just kicked me out because they didn't need, and I quote, someone that's not wanted here," she grounded out. "And yes, my parents didn't teach how to fight in the war, probably because I was raised by a woman who was skilled in the world's oldest profession, who kicked me out when I was 10. She walked away, anger showing in her steps. The 2 girls watch her leave. "You went too far there, Katara," Ino told her. "Sometimes, the waterbender just didn't know when to stop." "Maybe I did," she admitted. But why would a huntress kick her out of the house? Ino looked at her like she couldn't believe what she had just heard. What? The oldest profession in the world is being a hunter, right? They had been around for as long as anyone could remember. The kunoichi shook her head in exasperation. She wasn't raised by a hunter. She was raised by a whore. Odds are she was kicked out so the whore could get more customers. Katara was shocked by those words. No one would ever do that, she protested. To do such a thing would have been unthinkable, at least to her. Yes, they do, and you just saw the result of one. Ino walked away, leaving Katara with her thoughts. Sokka sat alone, looking at the moon in the sky. It went behind a cloud for a moment, and when it cleared, Suki was walking towards him. It's a beautiful moon, she said, looking up at it. Yeah, it really is, he said, thinking of you. Whenever he saw the moon, he couldn't help but think of her. She sat down next to him. Look, I know you're just trying to help, but I can take care of myself. I know you can. She had proven that to him back on her own island. Then why are you acting so overprotective? She asked. It's so hard to lose someone you care about, he told her before looking away. He couldn't keep eye contact with her. Something happened at the North Pole and I couldn't protect someone. I don't want anything like that to happen again. I lost someone I cared about, she admitted. He didn't die, he just went away. I only had a few days to get to know him. But he was smart and brave and funny. Sokka, being the clueless male teenager he is, got mad and stood up. Who is this guy? He demanded. Is he taller than me? No, he's about your height, she answered without giving away anything. Is he better looking? It is you, stupid, she finally told him. Oh, he said, feeling like an idiot. The two of them just stared at each other. They leaned closer and their eyes closed. They were about to kiss when Sokka pulled away. I can't, he told her, the reminder of what happened to you still in the sky. I'm sorry, she said to him. No, you shouldn't be. He walked away, leaving Suki alone under the moon. Jet walked alongside the passengers, handing out the food they had taken. It was almost like a banquet. Zuko, Iroh and the other two freedom fighters sat together. So, Smellerby, Iroh began. That's an unusual name for a young man. Maybe it's because I'm not a man, she told him. I'm a girl. She got up and walked away. Oh, now I see. It's a beautiful name for a lovely girl, he called after her, apology evident in his voice. Longshot got up from where he sat and went after her. He stopped her and gave a look. I know, she said. You're right. If I'm confident with who I am, it doesn't matter what other people. Thanks, Longshot. He simply nodded. Zuko and Iroh were eating their food when Jet joined them. From what I heard, people eat like this every night in Ba Sing Se, he told them as he sat down. I can't wait to set my eyes on that giant wall. It is a magnificent sight, Iroh agreed. It had been something that had drawn his breath away when he had first seen it. So, you've been there before? Jet asked him. Once, when I was a different man, he answered evasively. There was no need to tell them young man he had tried to take the city. I've done some things in my past that I'm not proud of. But that's why I'm going to Ba Sing Se, for a new beginning, a second chance. That's very noble of you, Iroh told him. I believe people can change their lives if they want to. I believe in second chances. Zuko looked at his uncle. He knew Iroh wasn't just talking about Jet having a second chance. Everyone, except for Sokka, was still sleeping deeply. The tribesman had tried to go to sleep, but it had eluded him, allowing him to only sleep fitfully. Finally giving up when morning was, he got up from where he had tried to sleep and grabbed a towel, getting the attention of Aquila. I'm going to blow off some steam, you go back to sleep, he told the wolf before he walked away. Aquila didn't believe him. He rose from where he was sleeping. He knew who should go talk to Sokka. Sokka walked back to where he and Suki had talked. Perhaps it's best to work on the one style I know the least, he thought. He took a firebending stance and began to practice. He went over the moves and motions that he knew. He was sweating so much that he took off his shirt so that it wouldn't get sticky and gross. Admittedly, he didn't know a lot about the style. Even though it was one of the more frequent styles of bending he had seen, he couldn't exactly stop in a middle of fight and ask a firebender to show him that move again. So he had to keep going over what he did know until it felt right. He had just finished the practice when he heard someone moving behind him. "Having a good workout?" Suki asked, just standing there. He turned to face her. She wasn't wearing her armor, just the kimono. For some reason, it made her seem a little delicate. "Yeah, I was," he answered as he reached for the towel that he had brought along with him. Suki stared at a bare-chested Sokka, taking in all the details she could see as he wiped himself off. And it all came into one thought. "I want." That was when she saw something hanging from his neck. "Sokka, are you a paragon?" she asked with amazement as she looked at his medallion. He stopped drying himself and looked down. "Why?" he asked cautiously. Her hand dipped into her kimono and she pulled out a similar medallion. The difference was the top of her medallion held the ancient symbol for Earth. He just stared at her in surprise. "You're the paragon of the Earth Kingdom," she finished. But how? It was the only thing he could think to ask her at that moment. "When I started my Kyoshi warrior training, I also learned how to use the 4 bending arts, even though I wasn't a bender," she explained. "The day the Kyoshi warriors left, Oyaji pulled me aside. He said that I had been trained for this. He gave me this and said that even though he was not a high-ranking member of the order, he was high enough to be able to give it to me." She lifted her paragon medallion slightly to emphasize his point. "He said that I was now the Earth Kingdom paragon and told me what that meant. The last thing he told me was that no matter what happens to the bending countries and no matter what the Avatar does, the 4 paragons stand as one." "Have you met Sifu?" he asked her. If she truly was a fellow paragon, she would have met the spirit. She nodded. "He visited me that same night." The first word out of his mouth was, "finally." Single quote quote. He chuckled. "That sounds like Sifu, alright." They both laughed at that. "So, you've been trained in all 4 bending styles?" She nodded. "Yeah." She knew each style quite well. "Then maybe you can help me. I don't know much of firebending, you could probably help me." He dropped into a firebending stance, showing an open challenge. She smiled. "You're on." They began to spar, stopping every now and then so she could correct something that he was doing wrong. He began to understand what she was showing him, and the spars lasted longer. They had barely noticed that the sun was rising. Finally, they had both blocked strikes from each other and were holding them, seeing who would break away first. They were panting as they stared into each other's eyes. Suki looked at the boy she liked. Whoever was going to break away first was not the only thing on her mind. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. "Oh, spirits take it." She broke away, grabbed his face and pulled him into a kiss. Now this wasn't a kiss on the cheek one give to their family or the chaste kiss on the lips one gave to someone you like. Oh no, this was the kind of kiss that included tongue and usually led to clothes flying. Taken aback from the sudden kiss, Sokka was so shocked at Suki's actions that his brain went into shutdown. He returned the kiss with gusto. He pushed her back to a nearby wall, making her gasp a little, letting Sokka invade her mouth. While their tongues were dancing, their hands explored the other's body. He cupped one of her breasts while she felt up the developed abs he had. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on your opinion, his brain had rebooted at this point. Stop, he groaned, breaking the kiss and pulling away. "We should stop." She gave a low moan of objection. "Why?" she asked huskily. "You were enjoying it as much as I was." She was enjoying herself. "If we keep this up, the others will see us. Let them." She felt his muscles underneath her hand. She wanted to kiss him again. She enjoyed it. "Suki, stop," he told her. "We have to go soon." Her mind cleared from the hormone-induced haze. She immediately blushed at what had just happened. You're right. Sorry." She quickly walked away, leaving him alone as the sun rose into the sky. He put his shirt back on silently and started to walk back when he noticed Aquila standing nearby. "How long were you watching?" he asked the wolf. Aquila just smiled in his own wolfish way and padded back to where the rest of the group was waking up. The tribesmen had no choice but to follow. Katara looked over at her brother walking back to them. "Where have you been, Sokka?" she asked. She hadn't seen him when she had woken up. "I was practicing my firebending moves," he answered, deliberately avoiding eye contact with Suki. "I still need to work on it." "Okay, then." She looked at the entire group. "We need to get moving, so we'll have to eat as we walk," she told them all. The group started moving again through the Serpent's Pass, heading to Ba Sing Se. As they did, Katara walked alongside Shu Yi. "Hey, about last night," she began before smelling something. "What is that?" "Herb ointment," Shu Yi answered curtly. "Helps relieve some of the back pain I get in the morning. The rest disappears after I walk a bit." "Oh, okay," she said before falling silent. "Like I said, about last night." "Save it, princess," she cut her off. "I don't want to hear about how you're sorry. Like I said, not everything can be fixed with a hug or saying you're sorry. Go away." Katara sighed in defeat and walked to the front of the group. They continued walking on the pass through the day when they came upon a surprise. The path that connected the two mountain-like formations had been completely submerged. "We could probably carry people over," Ino suggested to her teammates. "We can walk on water." "It'll take too long," Shikamaru countered. "Not to mention it'd be troublesome." Katara took charge. "Everyone single file," she ordered. They did so and she walked forward, bending the water to part before them. She continued to do so as they walked deeper into the water. "Aang, I need help," she called out to the rear. Aang handed his staff to Toph and helped bend the water around them to form a bubble. They walked under the water, safe due to the bubble enclosing them. The fish swam around the bubble, content with what they had in life. "Hey, Choji," called out Sokka with a grin. "Do you still want some fish?" Choji groaned. "Why did you have to bring that up?" he asked. The tribesman was never going to let him live that down. Momo was watching the fish with interest. He leapt from Toph's shoulder into the water to chase after them. He would have gladly chased them for a little while longer had it not been for the large creature that swam right behind him. He leapt back into the bubble just as the others noticed the creature's shadow. "What is that?" Katara asked as the shadow disappeared. But the thing quickly reappeared as it smashed through the bubble, quickly filling it with water. Before they had a chance to drown, Toph bent the portion of rock they were on upwards. It broke through the water's surface, becoming like a small island in the water. She wordlessly handed Aang his staff back. Meanwhile, the creature that had literally burst their bubble began to circle around them. After a few moments, the creature's head finally showed itself, roaring at the people on the rock. "I think I just figured out why they call it the Serpent's Paw," Sokka said as he looked at the creature. "No, really?" asked a nervous and very sarcastic Shu Yi. "What tipped you off?" "Not the time for that," Asuma told her. The serpent screeched at the group, almost like it was angry about them for trying to pass. "Suki, you know about giant sea monsters. Make it go away," Sokka told her. "Just because I live near the Unagi doesn't mean I'm an expert," she replied with a frown. Meanwhile, Shu Yi had picked up Momo and held him out for the serpent to see. "Oh, great and powerful sea serpent, please accept this humble and tasty offering." "Thank you," she told the serpent. The serpent lunged for them but Aang swatted it back with an air slice. "I'll distract it. Katara, get everyone across," he ordered before opening his glider and flying towards the serpent. "Choji, get in there and help him," Asuma ordered his student. Choji ran out onto the water. "Chobaika no Jutsu, super multi-size technique," he cried out as he flashed through the hand seals. He grew to a tremendous size and grabbed hold of the serpent. What came next was nothing short of a wrestling match. Katara jumped off the rock, bent the water to form into ice, making a bridge. She repeated the movements again and again until the ice bridge connected the island to the rest of the pass. Everyone except for Toph got onto the ice and made their way to the other end while Katara bent a board made from ice underneath her feet and made her way towards the fight. Choji, get back with the others, she called out to the giant Akamichi. We've got this. Choji nodded, let go of the thrashing serpent, and ran back to the group, shrinking back to his normal size as he went. The serpent chased after Aang, only to have Katara weigh a part of it body down with ice. It managed to break through the ice and chased after Katara. Meanwhile, Sokka had noticed that almost everyone had managed to make it across, except for one. Toph, come on, he called out to the blind earthbender, who was still on the tiny island she had made. It's just ice. She put one foot on said ice and withdrew it immediately. Actually, I'm going to stay on my little island where I can see, she yelled out. The serpent hitting said island made it clear to her that it wasn't a good idea. Okay, I'm coming, she announced as she made her way slowly over the ice. You're doing great, Sokka yelled out as she came to them. Just follow the sound of my voice. It's hard to ignore, she replied. But she was silently grateful. She couldn't see on the ice and all she had to go on was his voice. You're almost there, he told her as she got closer. But the serpent's tail smashed through the ice bridge, shattering it and sent Toph into the water. Help, I can't swim, she cried out as she struggled to stay afloat. I'm coming, Toph. Both he and Suki leapt into the water at the same time and swam towards their friend. When Toph went under, they dived under as well. They managed to grab her and bring up to the surface. Oh, Sokka, you saved me, Toph said after they broke through the water's surface. She then kissed Suki on the cheek. Wrong side, Toph, Sokka said from her left. Yeah, it's me, Suki said, feeling a little embarrassed by what just happened. Needless to say, Toph was more embarrassed. You can go ahead and let me drown now, she said. Sokka and Suki just swam back to the group with her in their grasp. Meanwhile, Aang and Katara were trying to confuse the serpent by running in circles around it while also bending a whirlpool into creation. The serpent kept going around and around until it finally hit its head against a high part of the pass, driving it away. Aang and Katara flew back to the group, which let out a cheer. Nicely done, you two, Asuma congratulated them. Yes, the way you dealt with the serpent was amazing, Ying said. She had never seen anything like that before in her life. We did what we could, Katara said. That's all. Shu Yi looked at where the serpent had left. I'd hate to be a downer, but why don't we leave before that thing comes back for round 2, she suggested. That creature seemed like it would gladly come back for revenge. Everyone agreed with what she said and continued walking. It wasn't long before they had gotten through the serpent's pass. There's the wall, Sokka announced pointing ahead. Indeed, far off in the distance was the outer wall of Ba Sing Se. Now it's nothing but smooth sailing to Ba Sing Se. At that point, Ying let out a gasp of pain. Oh no, she cried as she clutched her stomach. What's wrong? The baby's coming, she announced, a pool of water already forming between her legs. What? Now? Can't you hold it in or something? He asked her as she sat down on the ground. Sokka, calm down, Katara told her brother. I helped Gran deliver lots of babies back home. This wasn't going to be a problem. This isn't the same as delivering an Arctic seal, he protested, beginning to freak out. This is a real, human thing. It's called a baby and I helped her deliver plenty of those too, she told him patiently if not a little irritated. Aang, Shikamaru, Asuma, get some rags. Sokka, Choji, Ino, water, she ordered. The two groups ran off to do their tasks. Toph, I need you to make an earth tent, a big one. The blind earthbender bent the earth into a tent-like shape over the family. Suki, Shu Yi, come with me. She walked into the tent with the two of them right behind her. Zuko stared off into the distance, looking at the incoming land. You know, Jet's voice said behind him. As soon as I saw your scar, I knew exactly who you were. Zuko tensed up, thinking he had been made. You're an outcast, like me, Jet said, making him relax slightly. and us outcasts have to stick together. We must watch each other's backs, 'cause no one else will. I realized lately that being on your own isn't always the best path, Zuko replied. The two of them looked on as the walls of Ba Sing Se came closer. As he looked, the scarred dragon was glad he wasn't alone. He still had his uncle with him. Ying was panting inside the earth tent, holding on to her husband's and sister-in-law's hands. It was a hard process, giving birth. You're doing great, Ying, Katara assured her. Guys, where that water, she called out. Get ready to push. 1, 2, 3. Push. Sokka had walked in when she ordered Ying to push. The result was him fainting. Get him out of here, Katara told Ino and Choji. Finally, after much hard work, the baby was born. Its cries were loud and healthy. It's a girl, Katara proclaimed for all to hear. Toph stood next to Sokka outside the tent. So, you wanna go see the baby or are you going to faint like an old lady again? She asked him. She was a little amused by he did. No, I'm good this time, he answered. He had just been caught off guard, that was all. Don't be so hard on him, Toph, Shikamaru said. My dad fainted when my troublesome mother gave me birth. Of course, she hit him over the head with a frying pan later for it. Nice family you got there, the blind earthbender commented. It kinda grows on you, actually, Choji told her. They all walked into the tent, leaving Aang outside. Aang, Katara said from the tent's opening. You have to come see this. He got up and walked to the tent's entrance. Hearing the baby cry, he turned his gaze on the happy family surrounding the newborn. She sounds healthy, Toph noted. She's beautiful, Katara stated. I've only seen this with deer and it's troublesome, Shikamaru said before giving a small smile. But it's always worth it to see the look on the mother's face. It doesn't matter if she's human or not. To him, both Ying and her baby looked radiant. Wow, Shikamaru, Ino said, looking at her teammate. We didn't know you cared. You're just full of surprises, aren't you, buddy? Choji asked his friend. I shouldn't have opened my mouth, he grumbled. That's enough, you three, Asuma told them. So, this is what it will be like for me soon, he thought to himself. Images of Kurenai and their soon-to-be-born baby filled his mind. It's so small, Sokka said after looking at the baby. Akela moved his head closer to the baby and began to sniff. After he was done, he gave the baby a big lick on the face, making it giggle. Aang smiled as he watched the scene in front of him. Your monks said that hope is just distraction, Shuyi told him as she stood next to him inside the tent. But don't you see, Aang? Hope doesn't distract people, it drives them. It drove this family to find a safe place, just as you should let it drive you to find your missing friend. What should we name her? Tan asked his wife. I want our daughter's name to be unique, she told him. I want it to mean something. Aang began to tear up at this point. He wiped the tears away and walked forward. I've been going through a really hard time lately, he told the family. But you've made me hopeful again. Ying looked at him and then her husband. I know what I want to name our baby now. Hope, she said. That's a perfect name, Tan agreed. Hope. They both looked at their baby, happy to have a new member to their family. Everyone filtered out of the tent so they could have some time alone. Aang pulled Katara aside. I thought I was trying to be strong, he told her. But really I was just running away from my feelings. Seeing this family together, so full of happiness and love, it's reminded me of how I feel about Appa, and how I feel about you. Katara cried a little but wiped the tears away. She and Aang gave each other a hug. They broke the hug and saw that Shuyi was standing nearby. It took you long enough to stop moping around, she told Aang. But I thought you said he needed a kick in the ass, Katara pointed out, remembering that conversation quite vividly. I said that was my opinion, princess, she replied. I also said that not everything could be fixed with a hug. She smiled. I never said that this wasn't one of them. Aang looked around and saw his friends gathering around him. I promise I'll find Appa as fast as I can, he told them as he took his staff from Toph. I just really need to do this. See ya in the big city, Sokka told him. Say hi to that big fuzz ball for me, Toph said, punching him in the arm. I hope you'll find him soon, Ino said. Good luck, Choji told him. Try not to get lost, it'd be too troublesome to go and look for you, Shikamaru said. Don't be afraid to ask us for help when we get there, Asuma told him. It never hurt to ask for help. You'll find him, Aang, Katara said. I know, he replied. Thank you, Katara. He opened up his glider and was ready to take off. You ready, Momo? He asked the lemur, who was also ready to take off. They flew up and away to Ba Sing Se with everyone waving them goodbye. As Sokka double-checked the contents of his stuff, Suki walked up to him. Sokka, it's been really great to see you again, she said. Whoa, hold on, he said as he stood up. Why does it sound like you're saying goodbye? I came along because I wanted to make sure you got through the Serpent's Pass safely, she explained. But now I need get back to the other Kyoshi warriors. So you came along to protect me? He asked, completely surprised. Listen, she said, her face blushing. I'm really sorry about last night, and this morning. We were saying things and sparring. I just got carried away and before I knew it, Whatever she was going to say next stopped when Sokka kissed her on the lips, catching her off guard. You talk too much, he told her before kissing her again, this time she returned it. Aquila watched the two with satisfaction. Aang and Momo flew towards the outer wall of Ba Sing Se. When they reached the wall, they flew upwards, passing clouds along the way. He landed on the top of the wall with Momo on his shoulder. He was about to take off again when he saw something that shocked him. Slowly but surely, a gigantic drill with the emblem of the Fire Nation was making its way towards the wall. Aang knew if the drill wasn't stopped, it would penetrate the wall easily. Sorry Momo, he told the lemur. Appa's going to have to wait. Author's note. Thanks for all the reviews you've sent me. I don't know about the rest of you but I hated that passport attendant. She kept going on and on about order, you would have thought she was a communist chief of police. If you ask me, she deserves a little chaos. Might get the giant stick up her ass out. Yes, Suki is the paragon of the Earth Kingdom. Those of you who have been guessing that are correct. Regarding the matter of the paragon of the air nomads, I have only 3 things to say. Number 1. Who it is will be revealed much later in the story. Number 2. Neither Jet or any of the freedom fighters will be the air nomad paragon. And number 3. Just because Aang is the last airbender, doesn't mean he's the last air nomad. If you want to call me evil for withholding the information, I thank you for the compliment. If I have insulted any woman when it came to the breasts or making the birth easy, I apologize. I have nothing but respect for the human female, even more so because of the fact they are willing to go through 9 months and a lot of pain to deliver a baby. If you like the interaction between Sokka and Suki during the spar and want more like that, I'm just going to say this. I'm not planning on writing any lemon scenes. Number 1. I don't know how good I would be able to write that. Number 2. I don't want this story to be killed because of that rule the managers of fanfiction put out. They killed a lot of good stories with that, like NILF by Arislacker Micah. I'll see you all next chapter.